Chapter 126. Just as Ai Buatao finished speaking, a loud voice rang out, "North Sea cultivators, today is the day you all die." On the southern side of the small island, a massive upside-down bowl suddenly rose up from the surface of the ocean. Beneath the massive bowl, around 50 cultivators from the Overturned Seas faction appeared. As the massive bowl rose up, it gradually shrank to the size of an ordinary bowl. Then, it fell into the hands of a short cultivator wearing a red cloak. Clearly, this bowl-shaped magic artifact was also a treasure for concealing one's whereabouts. This cultivator in red was the one who had shouted earlier. The leading Xianling cultivator's pupil shrank when he saw the cultivator in red. "Nuhai Hongi, you're the hall master of Nuhai Hall? How did you know our plan?" The cultivator in red laughed. "As expected of a large North Sea sect, you're quite well informed. You've been spying on us so many times. Did you think I wouldn't know? I just ignored you on purpose to bait you into taking the bait." The leading Xianling cultivator was furious. How could he not know that they had fallen into the Overturned Ocean sect's trap? Now all they could do was fight to the death. As he spoke, the Overturned Ocean sect cultivators behind him leaped out and surrounded the North Sea cultivators, attacking the Overturned Ocean sect cultivators. Together with the previous group of cultivators, they attacked the North Sea cultivators. The North Sea cultivators were instantly thrown into chaos. The already loose crowd scattered like birds and beasts, fleeing in all directions. However, the Overturned Ocean sect cultivators who had been surrounded earlier took the initiative to attack. Instead, they entangled the fleeing North Sea cultivators and joined forces with the Overturned Ocean sect's reinforcements to counterattack. The North Sea cultivators who had the upper hand suffered heavy casualties. A third of their original group of 80 to 90 people was lost. The sudden reversal of the situation on the battlefield not only caught the North Sea cultivators off guard, but even Ai Buatao and the others in the green gauze tent looked at each other in dismay. They were secretly glad that their side did not make the first move. Otherwise, under the ambush of the Overturned Sea sect, they who only had 40 people would definitely suffer heavy casualties. But what should they do next? Ai Buatao pondered for a moment and came up with an idea. He said, "We still have to take action. Although Xianling sect and the other cultivators are interfering, they have put us in a more advantageous position. Moreover, we are all North Sea cultivators. It would be immoral for us to stand by and do nothing." Everyone nodded and agreed with Ai Buatao's opinion. When Ai Buatao saw everyone nodding their heads, his heroic spirit rose. He continued, "In that case, we will do our best to approach the battlefield. When I give the signal, we will withdraw the green muslin tent. When the time comes, we will attack together and catch the Overturned Ocean sect off guard." The 7 late blood condensation realm cultivators controlled the green canopy and slowly moved towards the battlefield. Seeing that the two sides were defenseless, they couldn't help but feel excited and took out their magic tools. Lu Ping also took out the goose feather blades that he had not used for a long time from his storage ring. In such a chaotic battle, firstly, he was unfamiliar with the other cultivators and couldn't coordinate with them. Secondly, he had to conserve his strength. There were already more than 20 late blood condensation realm cultivators on the battlefield. If he went all out, he would inevitably attract the attention of the late blood condensation realm cultivators. Lu Ping still remembered the lesson of being hunted down. The green muslin tent that surrounded the North Sea cultivators suddenly withdrew. Ai Buatao shouted, and the 40 mid and late blood condensation realm cultivators charged towards the Overturned Ocean sect from the side. Not only did the North Sea cultivators not expect this, but the Overturned Ocean sect was also caught off guard. The 40 North Sea cultivators charged in the same direction, and in an instant more than 10 Overturned Ocean sect cultivators died to the sneak attack. Ai Buatao was afraid that the North Sea cultivators would misunderstand, so he shouted, "North Sea's West Tomb Island's Ai family cultivators are here. Fellow Taoists from Xianling sect, do not panic. We will work together to deal with the Overturned Ocean sect." When Ai Buatao's group suddenly appeared, how could Xianling sect and the other North Sea cultivators not know that Ai Buatao's group had the same idea as them? However, they didn't have the time to care about such things. The appearance of the West Tomb Island's Ai family cultivators undoubtedly gave the North Sea cultivators hope of turning the tide. Hence, the Xianling sect's leader also replied loudly, "So it's fellow Taoists from West Tomb Island, Thank you for your help. The leaders of both sides spoke to each other, tacitly agreeing to work together to deal with the overturned oceans sect. Lu Ping followed closely behind the rest, wielding his goose feather blades and slashing at a fifth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator from the overturned oceans sect. This cultivator was originally besieging a North Sea cultivator, but he didn't panic despite being ambushed. He stomped his foot on the ground, and thorny vines immediately sprouted from the ground, weaving into a wall of vines in front of him. At the same time he held a mid-grade magic tool, a soft whip, in his hand. With a casual flick, a sharp gust of wind flew towards Lu Ping's face. Lu Ping was greatly impressed by this overturned ocean sex cultivator's quick response. This cultivator's movements were calm, and he didn't panic at all despite Lu Ping's sneak attack. Clearly, this was a cultivator who had been through life and death situations. However, this cultivator had misjudged the situation. He didn't give up on attacking the North Sea cultivator just because of Lu Ping's sneak attack. Ever since he entered the North Sea region, he rarely lost to North Sea cultivators of the same level. In fact, he could even take on two opponents at once. In his opinion, his countermeasures were enough to temporarily stall this North Sea cultivator, who was at the same cultivation level as him. As long as he killed the North Sea cultivator who was besieging him, he would be able to kill this guy who had sneak attacked him without a burial place. Just as the overturned ocean sex cultivator was trying to show off his extraordinariness, the sound of metal clashing rang out. He instantly felt his flowing gold whip being deflected. At the same time, the hidden energy hidden within the whip was also neutralized by a vigorous magic power. The overturned ocean sex cultivator cursed inwardly. Then he heard a ripping sound. The wall of vines in front of him had already been torn apart by Lu Ping's second goose feather blade. At this time, it was too late for the overturned ocean sex cultivator to recall his other magic weapon from the North Sea cultivator. The other goose feather blade that had separated the flexible whip had already broken through the cultivator's defensive magic art and pierced through the cultivator's heart-core space. Due to AI Buitao's and the others' attacks, the battlefield was once again thrown into chaos. Lu Ping reached out and grabbed the fallen overturned ocean sex cultivator's storage pouch. At the same time, this cultivator's death attracted the attention of the other overturned ocean sex cultivators. Lu Ping's sneak attack didn't stop the North Sea cultivator from being besieged. Amidst the screams of pain, the overturned ocean sex cultivator turned his magic weapon towards Lu Ping, who had just killed his partner. This was a sixth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Lu Ping no matter what. Lu Ping sensed the boundless transcendence energy contained in the incoming magic weapon. He hurriedly used his goose feather blades to block the incoming magic weapon. With a loud bang, Lu Ping's blades were sent flying out of Lu Ping's control. Lu Ping was shocked. Only now did he realize that this cultivator's cultivation was far higher than an ordinary sixth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator's. Moreover, the magic weapon he was using was a high-grade flying sword. What Lu Ping didn't know was that the overturned ocean sex cultivator was even more shocked. He didn't expect that he would only be able to send his opponent's magic weapon flying out of his control when he had a higher cultivation level and was using a high-grade magic weapon. In his opinion, his attack should have injured his opponent. At the very least, it should have shattered his opponent's magic weapon. Lu Ping's transcendence energy surged, and he hurriedly recalled his blades. He regained control of them. At this moment, his opponent's second attack had already drawn 12 sword flowers. They were like flowers blooming in the wind, falling towards Lu Ping's body. His opponent had clearly grasped force. Lu Ping cast the stormy waves crashing shore sword skill. The waves surged like a flood that broke through a dam, washing away the 12 sword flowers. At this moment, seaweed suddenly grew out of the sea behind Lu Ping and wrapped itself around Lu Ping's body. Water and wood complemented each other, cultivating both magic and weapon techniques. Lu Ping sneered and grabbed at the seaweed from his left and right. Suddenly, a huge wave rose from the surface of the sea and transformed into a huge transparent hand that grabbed at the seaweed sticking out of the sea, tearing it into pieces. North Sea's 12 Absolutes Water Manipulation Art. The overturned ocean sex cultivator's expression changed. He knew that he had encountered a formidable opponent. He threw out 9 seeds brimming with vitality, Lu Ping scanned them with his divine sense and knew that this was a set of magic weapons. Every seed was equivalent to a low-grade magic weapon. The 9 seeds sprouted around the cultivator, growing a jade-green vine that coiled around the cultivator's head in the blink of an eye, forming a vine net that tightly protected the cultivator. Lu Ping scanned it with his divine sense and couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. The vine net formed by 9 low-grade vines was actually a high-grade magic weapon. With the protection of the vine net, the overturned ocean sex cultivator no longer had to worry about anything. A high-grade flying sword flew towards Lu Ping, creating flower petals around Lu Ping. Instantly, the petals fell and surrounded Lu Ping. Each beautiful petal contained a sharp sword chi. Lu Ping didn't expect to encounter such a troublesome opponent so soon. He wanted to summon the soaring swords, but when he saw the chaos around him and the occasional late blood condensation realm cultivators fighting, he knew that if he took out the high-grade flying swords, it would attract unwanted attention. Since that was the case, Lu Ping decided to have a sword duel with the cultivator. The twin sabers danced in the air, alternating between the stormy waves crashing shore strike and rock-piercing strike. Although Lu Ping's mystic instruments were slightly inferior to the cultivator's, his abundant arcane energy allowed him to stand his ground against the cultivator. At that moment, the overturned ocean sex encirclement finally collapsed under the assault of AI Buatao and the others. Both sides were entangled in a chaotic battle. At that moment, a rumbling sound rang out, and the entire northern island shook. Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, they saw the final barrier protecting the central island finally shatter. Lu Ping cursed under his breath. At this critical moment, there were still North Sea cultivators who didn't forget about the pirates' treasures and attacked the 4 prisons formation the moment they escaped. Lu Ping regretted rescuing these people. Chapter 127. Once the 4 prisons formation was broken, the North Sea cultivators were thrown into chaos. Many of them broke away from the overflowing ocean sect and flew towards the central island. The overflowing ocean sect cultivators were already at a disadvantage under the assault of AI Buatao and the others. Now that some of the North Sea cultivators had left the battlefield, the overflowing ocean sect cultivators could attack the other North Sea cultivators. The North Sea cultivators' originally favorable situation was about to be reversed. AI Buatao and the Xianling sect's leaders' angry roars could not stop these greedy cultivators. Seeing that the situation was worsening, Lu Ping finally gave up on practicing his swordsmanship. He made a series of hand seals, and the seawater beneath Lu Ping's feet surged, turning into a 3-foot-wide platform. Lu Ping walked around the overflowing ocean sect cultivators, as if he was taking a stroll in his own backyard. Every few steps he would leave behind an identical Lu Ping. Each Lu Ping was making the same hand seals, as if they were controlling the goose feather blades together. When Lu Ping walked around the cultivator, a total of 18 identical Lu Ping surrounded the cultivator. The cultivator spread out his divine sense, trying to figure out which of the 18 was the real Lu Ping. However, to his disappointment, each of the 18 seemed to be real, but at the same time, none seemed to be the real one. The cultivator could not help but panic, not knowing what Lu Ping would do next. North Sea 12 Absolute's Art of Sea Deception. Just as the cultivator was focusing all his attention on the 18 Lu Ping, a wave of arcane energy suddenly came from the bottom of his feet. The cultivator's heart jumped. Oh no, I've been tricked. These 18 are all fake. The cultivator leaped up in a hurry, and the vine net above his head immediately closed, wrapping him up from head to toe. At the same time he waved his hand, and 3 talismans exploded into 3 clumps of seaweed, instantly covering the seawater beneath his feet in a thick layer. Just when the cultivator was shielding himself tightly, and at the same time using a talisman to cover the fluctuation of magical power at the bottom of the sea, he didn't notice that the 18 Lu Ping in the surroundings all revealed a mocking smile at the same time. The 18 Lu Ping clones changed their hand seals and another mid-grade flying sword flew out from Lu Ping's hand, transforming into 18 flying swords. The flying swords streaked through the air and 18 waves surged out from the surface of the ocean, transforming into a strange water worm. The flying sword emerged from the forehead of the water worm. Like a sharp horn, it charged towards the cultivator with a ferocious atmosphere. Of the 12 absolutes of the North Sea, the green worm wreaks havoc. The cultivator was unable to determine which of the 18 water WRMs was the real one. He could only summon a mid-grade flying sword and slash it towards one of the water WRM. As for the remaining ones, he could only rely on the high-grade magic tool, the vine net, to resist them. The spare flying sword in the cultivator's hand struck one of the water WRMs and dispersed it into a cloud of mist. This one was indeed a fake. At the same time, the remaining 17 water WRMs had already collided with the vine net. With a loud bang, the 17 water WRMs, along with the horn on their heads, exploded at the same time, snapping 2 of the vine net's vines. Blood sacrifice technique, the cultivator shouted in exasperation. However, this was only the beginning. Immediately after, the cultivator thought that he was absolutely safe suddenly sprang out from the bottom of the sea. Despite the obstruction of the seaweed, after this water WRM exploded, it still managed to snap one of the vine net's vines. The vine net, which was originally a high-grade magic tool, immediately dropped to a mid-grade defensive magic tool. Lu Ping's dazzling spell completely distracted the cultivator from the overflowing seas clan. The high-grade flying sword that was originally fighting against Lu Ping's goose feather dual blades in the air was finally shaken off by the dual blades. The dual blades quickly shot into the sea, and when they reappeared, they were already 18 water WRMs with wings. The alarmed cultivator from the overflowing seas clan hurriedly pushed the flying sword's speed to its limit, piercing through 12 water WRMs in a row. However, the cultivator was unable to stop the remaining 6 water WRMs in time. The water WRMs curled up their wings and immediately spun as they sliced towards him. The cultivator hurriedly summoned a backup defensive magic shield, but he did not know which direction to block the attack. He could only randomly choose a direction to block in front of his body, and naturally he did not choose the right one. A series of teeth-aching cutting sounds could be heard, followed by a series of bang 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 sounds. The vine net-like defensive magic tool of the highest quality was thus broken in the hands of Lu Ping. When the water WRMs broke through the defensive magic tool, the cultivator finally summoned his high-grade flying sword to his side, blocking the already exhausted water WRMs that had transformed from the goose feather dual blades into the wings of the water WRMs. Just as the cultivator broke out in a cold sweat and was about to catch his breath, he suddenly felt something strange above his head. The cultivator raised his head and saw another water WRMs charging towards his head, opening its huge mouth and swallowing the cultivator whole. The void above the cultivator's head, which was originally empty, suddenly shook a few times. Like a mirror breaking apart, another Lu Ping hovered in the air. At the same time, the 18 Wu Yes on the surface of the sea all turned into a pool of seawater and dispersed. In this battle, Lu Ping managed to kill his opponent despite being inferior in terms of cultivation and magic tool. This allowed Lu Ping to have a direct understanding of his own strength. And at the same time, he was even more determined to cultivate the North Sea Wave listening mantra. Lu Ping tried his best to keep a low profile, but the North Sea 12 absolutes were not to be underestimated. They still attracted the attention of other cultivators. Not long after Lu Ping killed the cultivator, a late-stage blood condensation cultivator from the overflowing seas gang shouted angrily, "Brat, how dare you!" As he spoke, he was already shooting towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping felt bitter in his heart. Although he was no longer as fearful of late-stage blood condensation cultivators as before, Lu Ping really didn't want to reveal his true strength in a chaotic battle like this. Fortunately, a ray of green light shot across the sky, intercepting the late-stage blood condensation cultivator. Someone said loudly, "Sir, you're a late-stage blood condensation cultivator. How can you bully the weak? Let me exchange a few blows with you." Lu Ping looked over and saw that it was Ai Buotao. He shot out 9 small banners in a row, trapping the overflowing seas gang cultivator in the middle. The overflowing seas gang cultivator roared in anger, but he couldn't break through Ai Buotao's blockade. Their cultivation levels were similar, and their magic tools and techniques were equally matched. It was hard to tell who was superior. Lu Ping looked at Ai Buotao gratefully, thinking to himself, "I was right. This Ai Buotao also uses a set of magic tools, just like my brother Ai Shu Tao. I wonder what their relationship is." Lu Ping flew up into the sky. Just as he was about to see where he needed help, he heard a scream. "The treasure is fake. There's no treasure on the island. Lu Ping frowned. When he looked towards the source of the voice, he realized that the North Sea cultivators who broke through the four prisons formation while AI Buatao and the others were attacking the overflowing seas gang had returned to the battlefield in a panic. At the same time, they brought with them a shocking piece of news. Not only did the North Sea cultivators realize that something was wrong, but the overflowing seas gang members were also stunned by the news. At this point, everyone realized that something was wrong. The late blood condensation cultivators from the three factions seemed to have come to some kind of agreement and called their own cultivators to stop fighting. However, more than a third of the 200-plus cultivators from the three factions had fallen. Everyone was in a frenzy of killing, and it was impossible for them to separate in such a short period of time. With the cultivators from the three factions tangled together, even the clear-headed cultivators who wanted to leave the battlefield would have to defend themselves from the attacks of others. Lu Ping retreated towards AI Buatao and the other late blood condensation cultivators as soon as he heard AI Buatao's signal to stop fighting. However, he was blocked by three overflowing seas gang cultivators along the way. Lu Ping had no choice but to be ruthless. He killed two of them before he managed to scare off the third. Just as Lu Ping broke away from the battle and was about to reach AI Buatao's group, a loud sound was heard. Then, the sound of war drums could be heard from the surface of the sea. Dong dong dong. The continuous beating of the war drums grew louder and louder, but it also sounded like it was coming from all directions. The cultivators could not tell where the drums were coming from. They only knew that the enemies were getting closer and closer. Seeing that, the cultivators from the three sides finally realized that something was amiss. One by one they stopped fighting. Suddenly, however, they felt as though the magic powers within their bodies were affected by the sound of the war drums. Felt as though they were going out of control. Their hearts beat in sync with the beats of the war drums, seemingly on the verge of exploding. At the same time, a heart-palpitating aura of slaughter reverberated through the sky above the ocean, giving the cultivators from the three sides a suffocating feeling. Just as the cultivators were retreating to their own sides, the calm sea suddenly seemed to boil. Dozens of blood condensation realm demon beasts of various shapes and sizes leaped out from the water and launched a surprise attack on the cultivators around them. 20 to 30 mid-blood condensation cultivators died on the spot under the attack of the demon beasts. Although the other 10 managed to avoid death, they were still severely injured. The sudden appearance of the demon beasts shocked the cultivators from the three factions. The late blood condensation cultivators from the three factions quickly attacked the demon beasts and rescued the cultivators who were being attacked. Just as the battlefield was in chaos, a water pillar with a diameter of 100 feet rose from the surface of the sea around the 5 islands. More than 50 blood condensation realm demon beasts gathered on each water pillar and surrounded the human cultivators. The first beating of the war drums came from these 4 water pillars. Just when the human clan cultivators in the encirclement were bewildered, a long laughter rang out, and a joyful voice said, "There are actually so many human clan flesh and blood. Now, after we slaughter these human clan cultivators, we 4 siblings can show our faces at Father's birthday." Lu Ping looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a humanoid monster speaking on the water pillar in the east. Other than the mouth of a crocodile, this monster looked no different from a human. AI Buatao murmured, "A half-shapeshifted demon beast that can speak the human language. Could it be?" Lu Ping fell into deep thought as he listened to AI Buatao's words. The other cultivators were shocked when they saw the demon beast that was speaking. A shapeshifted demon beast? It's a shapeshifted demon beast. Doesn't that mean it's at the same level as a core forging enlightened master? It's over. We don't have long to live. When AI Buatao saw that the cultivators on the battlefield had lost all will to fight, he quickly shouted, "You're only at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. You're only at the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm because of your noble bloodline and pills. Are you sure you can take down all of us?" Chapter 128. AI Buatao purposely raised his voice so that not only did Lu Ping and the others hear him, but even the Xianling sect and overflowing sea sect cultivators heard him. In their panic, they neglected the fact that the monster's transformation wasn't complete. Only a fully transformed monster was a true core forging realm monster enlightened master. The panicking cultivators heaved a long sigh of relief, and the despair in their hearts was swept away. Whether it was the human or monster race, a core forging realm enlightened master was an insurmountable gap between a blood condensation realm monster and a core forging realm monster. At this time, a giggle came from the west side of the water pillar platform. A woman's voice came. Big Brother didn't manage to scare him this time. This human's chi and blood are quite vigorous. Later on, brothers, don't fight with this little sister over him. Although the voice was seductive, no one could see the speaker from the water pillar platform. The Xianling sect cultivator seemed to recall something. He suddenly exclaimed, "Primordial crocodile. You're the primordial crocodile of the demon race. Only you can rely on your bloodline to transform into a half-human at the late blood condensation realm." A half-human demon walked out from the north side of the water pillar platform. Not only did it have a crocodile's mouth, but it also had a long crocodile tail. The monster beast chuckled and said, "I didn't expect you to have a few knowledgeable fellows. But so what? You humans boast about your intelligence, but haven't you still fallen into the trap of us four siblings?" The Xianling sect cultivator's expression changed. "I didn't expect the overturned seas gang to collude with the demon race and set up this trap." When the West Tomb Island cultivators, Xianling sect cultivators, and the other North Sea cultivators heard this person's speculation, they hurriedly took out their mystic artifacts to defend against the overflowing seas sect. Seeing that they were about to start fighting amongst themselves before they were killed by the demons, the red-robed hall master of the overflowing seas sect's Fury Seas Hall shouted, "Han Weiyun, you're spouting nonsense. Even if the overflowing seas sect colluded with the demons, we would still plot against a few core forging enlightened masters. A few hundred blood condensation realm cultivators are nothing in our eyes." When the crowd heard the hall leader Red Shirts roar, those who were slightly rational knew that the overflowing seas sect was not colluding with the demon clan. Moreover, looking at the demon clan's array, it was obvious that they wanted to annihilate the overflowing seas sect as well. The overflowing seas sect had no reason to conceal their actions at this time. AI Buatao saw that the demon beasts had completely surrounded the human cultivators. It was obvious that they had been planning this for a long time and wanted to capture all the human cultivators in one fell swoop. He quickly said, "At this moment we humans are at a disadvantage. If you continue to fight, you will die in the blink of an eye. We should put down our grudges and break through the demon beast's encirclement together." Xianling sect's Han Weiyun and the overturned seas sect's hallmaster Hong Yi were also aware of this situation. They didn't refute AI Buatao's suggestion. Seeing that the situation had stabilized, AI Buatao turned to the primordial giant crocodile in the east and asked, "Sir, you said that today's situation was a trap laid out long ago. May I ask what kind of tricks you used?" The primordial giant crocodile on the eastern water pillar platform was obviously the leader of the demon clan's operation. Seeing that the human cultivators were almost fighting amongst themselves despite being heavily surrounded, and hearing AI Buatao's question, the primordial giant crocodile was obviously very proud of its setup. It said, "You human cultivators can tame us demons as spiritual beasts and demon pets. Why can't we demons tame humans as pets?" AI Buatao was enlightened by the demon clan's leader's explanation. Lu Ping could also roughly guess the demon clan's strategy. However, he was a little surprised that human cultivators were willing to be the demon clan's pets. However, from the demon clan's point of view, the primordial giant crocodile's words were not unreasonable. The red shirt hall master was also a person with a sharp mind. He also roughly guessed the demon clan's plan. He said, "So you're saying that the group of pirates that my overflowing oceans gang annihilated was the bait you put out?" The primordial giant crocodile on the northern water pillar platform said proudly, "That's right. Not only was the treasure map forged by us, but we also leaked the news that you obtained the treasure map and your whereabouts." The more the demon clan spoke, the more pleased it became. When it was done, it could not help but laugh loudly. It was indescribably proud of itself. At this moment, the surrounded human cultivators finally understood the process of the demon clan's plan. Lu Ping was also secretly impressed by the demon clan's intelligence and tactics. At the same time, he completely threw away his contempt for the demon clan's intelligence. At this moment, the primordial giant crocodile, who had been silent all this while, appeared on the southern water pillar platform. Not only did it have a mouth and tail, but even its upper limbs had not completely transformed. It roared and said sternly, so long-winded, "Are you done yet? What's there to talk about with these humans? Why don't you just break their necks and make them into blood food for father? Why are you talking so much nonsense?" The primordial giant crocodile, who had not appeared all this while, spoke again. She said, "Little brother, you're still so impatient. Don't you feel that it's a great achievement to surpass these self-proclaimed intelligent humans in terms of intelligence?" The primordial giant crocodile stuck out its tongue and licked its long, flat mouth. Its saliva splashed everywhere. It said, "I don't feel any sense of achievement. Looking at so many human cultivators, I'm feeling hungry." The western giant crocodile laughed so hard that it could not catch its breath. The northern giant crocodile rolled its eyes. The eastern giant crocodile also laughed and said, "There's enough blood food this time. Other than for father, I can also have a sumptuous meal for the rest." The southern giant crocodile roared, "Big brother, you know what I'm thinking?" The eastern giant crocodile's expression turned serious. "All right, that's enough with the small talk. You human cultivators must have recovered a lot of your arcane energy. However, you humans are not the only ones who can benefit from this." After saying that, the eastern giant crocodile waved its hand. Suddenly, 4 giant war drums rose from the 4 water pillar platforms. 4 mid-blood condensation realm demonic beasts beat the drums with drumsticks. The deep and powerful drum beats had a strange rhythm. When the human cultivators heard it, their arcane energy seemed to go out of control again. They quickly circulated their cultivation techniques to control it. Lu Ping also felt uncomfortable at first, but after circulating the North Sea wave listening technique for a while, the drum beats no longer affected him. Lu Ping looked around and found that the late blood condensation realm human cultivators were just as unaffected as he was. On the other hand, the surrounding Yao beasts kept stepping out from the water pillars, following the beating of the drums. Taking up a battle formation, they slowly approached the human cultivators and narrowed their encirclement. Not only did the peculiar sounds of the war drums fail to affect the Yao beasts, it instead boosted their morale. One by one, the Yao beasts turned to regard the human cultivators with waves of bloodthirsty killing intent. The Hall Master Redshirt said, "Not good, these aren't ordinary demonic beasts. They're well-trained demon soldiers. They've already taken their positions while we were talking. We mustn't let them form a formation again." After saying that, he took out his magic tool and attacked the demonic beasts. The overturned Sea Gang cultivators followed closely behind and attacked the demon soldiers. The other cultivators were hesitant. When AI Buitao heard the Hall Master Redshirt mention demon soldiers, his expression changed. He quickly ordered the West Tomb Island cultivators to follow the overturned Sea Gang and attack. On the other side, the North Sea cultivators reacted the slowest. Under Han Weiyun's command, their attacks were scattered. On the east side, the primordial crocodile laughed. "You finally noticed? It's too late." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved the flag in his hand, and the formation of the demon soldiers changed. Several early blood condensation demon soldiers surrounded a mid-blood condensation demon soldier and formed a small circle formation. The small circle formations then formed a large circle formation under the command of a late blood condensation demon general. The small circle formations were interlinked and supported each other, blocking the first wave of attack from the human cultivators. Not a single demon soldier was killed. Only a dozen or so demon soldiers were injured. The demon generals nearby changed their formation, and the injured demon beasts wandered to the back. Although Lu Ping had heard about demon soldiers and Dao soldiers, this was his first time witnessing the power of a demon soldier's formation. Legend had it that demon soldiers could challenge those of a higher realm. Lu Ping didn't believe it at first. From Lu Ping's point of view, it was already impressive to be able to challenge those of a higher realm. But now Lu Ping had no choice but to believe it. When he saw that the attack of a dozen late blood condensation realm cultivators only injured a dozen early blood condensation realm demon soldiers, Lu Ping truly experienced the power of a demon soldier's formation. For demon soldier formations made up of more than 50 demonic beasts, they adopted a strategy of attacking steadily, closing in on the human cultivators from all sides. The human cultivators rushed forward, trying to break through the demon soldiers' formation. However, each cultivator fought their own battles. Not only did they fail to break through the demon soldiers' formation, but they also lost more than a dozen of their own. Hall Master Hong Yi said anxiously, "This isn't a solution. The demonic beasts are attacking from all sides. We should work together to attack a single direction." With that said, he led the overturned Sea gang members to attack the demon soldiers' formation on the west side. Ai Buotao didn't hesitate. He also ordered everyone to attack the demon soldiers' formation on the west side. After that, Han Weiyun and the other North Sea cultivators also joined in the attack. With a total of 160 human cultivators attacking the demon soldiers' formation on the west side, the demon soldiers' formation was in a precarious situation. However, even after enduring so many attacks, the demon soldiers' formation on the west side still managed to hold on. The primordial giant crocodile that was in charge of the west side's formation couldn't sit still any longer. It urged the other three demon soldiers' formations to shrink even more. At the same time, it led a few late blood condensation demonic beasts out of the water pillar platform, charging towards the late blood condensation cultivators to reduce the pressure on the demon soldiers' formation. When the demonic cultivators on the water pillar platform charged over, Lu Ping instinctively looked over. He saw an 8th layer blood condensation cultivator in the lead. It was dressed in a flowery human dress, but it had a crocodile's mouth and a long crocodile tail. It was as terrifying as one could imagine. Only now did Lu Ping understand why only the female crocodile didn't show up when the 4 primordial giant crocodiles were talking. Clearly, she knew that as a female demon, her half-transformed appearance was not something to be proud of in front of the humans. When the primordial female crocodile saw that the human cultivators were about to break out of her formation, she anxiously tried to stop them. However, she discovered that the human cultivators she was fighting were looking away from her face. The female crocodile was smart enough to scheme against humans, so how could she not guess the reason behind this? She was instantly embarrassed and furious. She immediately went berserk and dragged 3 late blood condensation realm human cultivators into her battle circle. The surrounding human cultivators were secretly amazed by the primordial giant crocodile's noble status. They were worried about whether they could successfully break out of the demon soldiers' encirclement. When the demon soldiers saw how fierce their leader was, their morale was boosted. They once again stabilized the crumbling defensive line. At this time, the demon soldiers from the other 3 directions finally surrounded them. Chapter 129. The demon soldiers finally managed to force the human cultivators into a corner. The late blood condensation cultivators from the other 3 directions also attacked. The pressure on the primordial mother crocodile was greatly reduced, especially the primordial giant crocodile in the eastern demon formation. As expected of the leader of the 4 demon soldiers, with just a 9th layer blood condensation realm attack, he heavily injured a late blood condensation realm human cultivator to the point that he vomited blood. After that, he continued to charge through the encirclement of the late blood condensation realm human cultivators. Seeing that the human cultivators were about to be completely annihilated, the red-clothed hall master joined Ai Buotao and Zhang Weiyun in attacking the giant crocodile leader. At the same time, he shouted to the members of the overturned Seas sect, "Set up the crystal array." The remaining 50 to 60 overturned Sea gang members listened to Hall Master Red's command and weaved through the encirclement of the demonic beasts. Every 6 overturned Sea gang members took their positions and formed a small hexagonal formation. Each small formation was connected to each other, forming an even larger hexagonal formation. Immediately, the attacks of the demonic beasts were halted. Then the large formation moved to the west, repelling the demonic beasts that were in its way. The injured overturned Sea gang members retreated along with their respective small formations, while the intact hexagonal formations moved forward to fill in the gaps. Dao Soldier Formation. Lu Ping was puzzled when he saw the intricate Dao Soldier Formation from the overturned Sea gang. Today, not only did he see the Demon Soldier Formation, but he also saw the Dao Soldier Formation. However, such an intricate Dao Soldier Formation was not something an ordinary sect could possess. Moreover, the Dao Soldier Formation formed by the overturned Sea gang members advanced and retreated in a well-coordinated manner. It was obvious that they had trained for a long time. Without a long period of practice, it was impossible to form such a tacit understanding. More and more human cultivators died. AI Buatao panicked and retreated. He shouted, "West Tomb Island's AI family cultivators set up the Dao soldier formation. The rest of you, follow my AI family cultivators to break out of the encirclement." As he spoke, the remaining AI family cultivators formed a simple formation around AI Buatao and followed the overturned sea gang to break out of the encirclement. Lu Ping and the rest followed closely behind. However, from Lu Ping's point of view, the power of the AI family's Dao soldier array was clearly far inferior to that of the overturned seas sect. Additionally, there was also a lack of rapport between them. Even so, it was still much better than the cultivators fighting on their own. Xianling sect's Han Weiyun followed suit, forming the Xianling formation with the remaining 20-plus Xianling disciples. Lu Ping recognized this Dao soldier formation. After all, Xunling was an old rival of Xianling sect, so he was quite familiar with their methods. However, Han Weiyun was only concerned about Xianling sect's escape, and the North Sea cultivators who came with him did not have the time to care about them. The North Sea cultivators who were trapped in the center of the encirclement felt despair, and they cursed at Xianling sect. When the 4 demon beast leaders saw that the human cultivators had formed a Dao soldier array and were about to escape, they quickly commanded their respective demon soldier arrays to stop them. Lu Ping followed behind the AI family cultivators. At first, the breakthrough was smooth, but when the demon soldiers reacted, the pressure on them increased. AI Buatao looked to the side and saw that Xianling sect's Dao soldier formation was not far away. Due to the obstruction of the demon soldiers, their breakthrough was slowed down. Without hesitation, AI Buatao directed the AI family's cultivators to approach Xianling sect. When the two arrays merged, the pressure on everyone instantly decreased, and the speed of their breakthrough increased significantly. At this time, they heard a strange cackle in front of them. The primordial giant crocodile, who commanded the southern demon soldiers, had already led the demon soldiers in front of them. Still thinking of running? Let me eat my fill first. At this time, there were less than 40 AI family and Xianling sect cultivators left. Everyone was in despair. AI Buatao said fiercely, "When enemies meet on a narrow path, the braver one wins. Fellow Taoists, once we break through this array, we will be considered to have broken out of the encirclement." The cultivators rushed forward together. Lu Ping was sandwiched in the middle of the crowd. Although he did not unleash the full power of his goose feather sabers, he was still outstanding among the cultivators. For mid-blood condensation demon beasts had already died on his way out. Lu Ping looked at the battlefield. At this time, the demon beast leaders from the east and north were commanding their demon soldiers to surround the overturned sea gang's Dao soldier array. The female crocodile from the west was commanding her subordinates to kill the dozens of North Sea rogue cultivators left behind by Xianling sect. The remaining demon soldiers met up with the demon soldiers from the south, and under the command of the demon soldier leader, they blocked the AI family and Xianling sect cultivators. Lu Ping saw that the number of cultivators around him was decreasing. Although AI Buatao wanted to protect them, he was powerless to do so. On the other hand, the Xianling sect cultivators were only focused on breaking out of the encirclement. The pressure on them was increasing, and it was difficult for them to move forward. Lu Ping looked at the situation on the battlefield. If he did not think of a solution soon, he was afraid that no one would be able to break out of the encirclement. At this time, he needed to borrow the strength of others. Otherwise, he would die if he was alone under the siege of so many demon beasts. Lu Ping made up his mind. Suddenly, he dashed out from between the AI family and Xianling sect cultivators. Just as Han Weiyun was about to reprimand Lu Ping raised his hands. 10 medicinal pills that emitted an inexplicable fragrance flew towards the demon soldiers. Just as the demon soldiers were about to cast spells to defend themselves, the 10 medicinal pills suddenly exploded and turned into powder. Instantly, a strange fragrance that was 10 times stronger than before filled the void of the sea. The human cultivators suddenly felt a sense of hunger in their stomachs. At the same time, many of the cultivators' stomachs let out rumbling sounds. The human cultivators quickly circulated their magic power to suppress this sudden hunger. Just as everyone was about to reprimand Lu Ping for his recklessness, the demon soldiers on the other side of the formation fell into chaos. Many of the demon soldiers suddenly lost their minds and bit at the demon beasts beside them. The other demon beasts did not show any weakness either. They also bit at the demon beasts beside them as if they were delicious food. Only a few late blood condensation demon beasts still retained their sanity. They roared and tried to command the demon soldiers to get back into formation. However, most of the demon soldiers were stimulated by Lu Ping's hunger crush pill. Their animal instincts were triggered, and they no longer obeyed orders. How could the human cultivators not know that this was a rare opportunity? They rushed forward and attacked the demon soldiers who had lost their minds. The giant crocodile leader roared in anger, and led a few late blood condensation demon beasts to block the human cultivators. However, even a strong man could not withstand so many people. Finally, the human cultivators broke through the encirclement. Even so, the demon soldiers who had lost their minds and treated their companions as food could also treat the human cultivators as food. Although the human cultivators managed to break through the encirclement, they still suffered heavy losses. Including the Xianling sex group, there were only about 30 of them left. At the same time, the demon soldiers behind them started to chase after them. The human cultivators did not have the time to thank Lu Ping and fled again. At this time, the female crocodile had already killed all the rogue cultivators. Seeing that the human cultivators had broken through the encirclement, it led the demon soldiers to chase after them again. Ai Buotao saw that the demon soldiers were getting closer and closer. He had no choice but to say, "Everyone, split up and break out of the encirclement, or we'll all die." The 30 or so cultivators each chose a direction to escape in. Lu Ping was already disappointed with participating in this operation, so he did not hesitate and turned to leave. Ai Buotao and Cheng Huang wanted to stop him, but Lu Ping was already more than 10 meters away. Lu Ping had just run 100 meters away when he heard a loud roar behind him. When Lu Ping turned to look, he saw a giant crocodile's tail rising from the water's surface, smashing towards Lu Ping with an overwhelming momentum. Lu Ping sighed in his heart. Why did this primordial giant crocodile have to target me? Lu Ping was depressed, but his hands did not slow down. A blue water shield attracted the surrounding seawater, forming a thick wall of water in front of Lu Ping. It was the water repellent shield that Lu Ping had used previously. This water repellent shield had been damaged by the attacks of the late blood condensation cultivators when Lu Ping was being chased. For the past 5 years, Lu Ping had tried to repair it, but he was not proficient in smithing. Thus, he could only use his arcane energy to nourish it. A loud bang rang out, and Lu Ping felt as if he was a decaying dam that had been broken by a raging torrent. Lu Ping was struck by the crocodile's huge tail, and was sent flying a few hundred feet away. A crisp sound rang out as the damaged water repellent shield finally ended its temporary fate. It shattered into pieces and fell into the seawater beneath Lu Ping's feet. Force. Momentum. These words echoed in Lu Ping's heart. With his abundant arcane energy, even if it was slightly damaged, a 7th-layer blood condensation demonic beast shouldn't have been able to destroy it in one blow. Only this demonic beast had mastered the momentum of the Force realm, and with its unique bloodline inheritance, would it have been able to take advantage of the water repellent shield's weak point and destroy it in one blow. When Lu Ping was defending against the attack of the crocodile's tail, he felt a crushing aura. It was the momentum that he had been trying to understand for years. Of the 3 states of Shi, Lu Ping had already grasped the birth force and borrowing force. Only the general force was out of his reach. Just as Lu Ping used the water repellent shield to block the primordial giant crocodile's full-powered attack, Lu Ping, who was trying to comprehend the Force realm, suddenly felt a breeze behind his head. Killing intent. Lu Ping's powerful divine sense immediately sensed danger. He couldn't care less about hiding his soaring swords and used the raging waves slapping the shore sword art, riding the wind and breaking the waves, to the back of his head. Ding! 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 The female sword that attacked first was knocked away. The male sword that followed blocked the flying sword that was only half a foot away from the back of Lu Ping's head. What a sharp attack! What an exquisite swordsmanship! Turning the flying sword into a gentle breeze was also a wind elemental sword skill's grand aura. If it weren't for Lu Ping's abnormal divine sense, he would have been killed by the crocodile's attack in his weakened state. After being ambushed twice in a row by an expert who had mastered the momentum, Lu Ping was still in a state of shock. His body was covered in cold sweat. He turned around and saw a silhouette meeting up with the Xianling sect cultivators on the surface of the sea 100 feet away. When the person met up with the Xianling sect cultivators, he turned to look at Lu Ping with a faint smile on his face. It's him. Lu Ping immediately recognized this person. When he was being surrounded by Xianling sect cultivators on Xianqi Island, Lu Ping had a sword duel with a pale-faced Xianling 4th layer blood condensation realm cultivator. During the duel, Lu Ping comprehended force borrowing from the momentum realm and gained the upper hand. However, the other party's merry 18 swords also left a deep impression on Lu Ping. After a few years, not only did the other party successfully reach the late blood condensation realm, his swordsmanship was also one step ahead of Lu Ping, and he mastered the momentum realm. Chapter 130. Lu Ping didn't have the time to think about why the Xianling sect cultivator wanted to kill him. The primordial giant crocodile seemed to have locked onto Lu Ping. After the first attack, it chased after him again. If Lu Ping was any slower, he would be surrounded again. He had no choice but to summon his magic cloud wrap and fly southwest. Suddenly, a giant crocodile emerged from the sea where Lu Ping was. It looked at Lu Ping's disappearing figure with interest. With a wave of its tail, the crocodile leaped out of the water and chased after Lu Ping. The primordial giant crocodile saw that its brother had left the battlefield and was chasing after the human cultivator alone. It hurriedly asked, "Little brother, where are you going?" The crocodile didn't even turn its head. "This human is delicious. I want to catch him and roast him." The female crocodile tried to dissuade it. That cultivator used a type of pill that makes people hungry. It might not be delicious. The crocodile was already far away, leaving only its laughter on the surface of the sea. "That's why I want to catch him. I want his pill. I like this feeling of having my appetite whet." Their conversation traveled far on the surface of the sea, so Lu Ping heard it. He didn't expect that he would attract the attention of a 7th layer blood condensation realm primordial giant crocodile when he used the hunger-swallowing pill to disrupt the demon army's formation. He cursed his bad luck. One chased while the other chased. One relied on an exquisite flying artifact, while the other had a high cultivation. They were evenly matched. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed 3,000 miles. At this time, only one human and one demon were left on the surface of the sea. Lu Ping didn't expect this demon to be so stubborn. It didn't give up even after chasing him for thousands of miles. Seeing that the sea in front of him was quiet, Lu Ping felt that his strength had increased tremendously after 5 years of hard work. He wanted to test the limits of his strength. The demon behind him was a good test subject. Who knew he might have to fight it? Lu Ping stopped on the surface of the sea, turned around and looked at the approaching primordial giant crocodile expressionlessly. This giant primitive crocodile was 90 feet long, and just its mouth alone took up a quarter of its entire body. Seeing that Lu Ping suddenly stopped running, the giant crocodile thought that Lu Ping had some tricks up his sleeves, so it cautiously approached Lu Ping. When it didn't sense any danger, the giant crocodile leaped out of the sea and transformed into a 3-meter-tall half-human monster amidst the splashing water. It asked, "Kid, why aren't you running away? If you're still afraid, then surrender and become my pet. As long as you can provide me with pills, I'll help you cultivate. How about it?" Lu Ping originally thought that this monstrous beast had only come for the hunger beast Dan, but he didn't expect that this monstrous beast had actually guessed Lu Ping's identity as an alchemist. This made Lu Ping have a whole new level of respect for this monstrous beast. This monster looked simple on the outside, but on the inside it was also exceptionally shrewd. Lu Ping sneered, "Are you sure that you can defeat me?" The giant crocodile laughed and scratched its head with its front claws that had yet to transform, and said, "What do you think?" Lu Ping's face changed, and with a flash of blue light from the magic cloud, he immediately rose into the sky. At the same time, the sea under Lu Ping's feet suddenly turned into ice, and a sharp icicle shot out from the ice. Fortunately, Lu Ping discovered it quickly, otherwise, he would have been skewered into a human meat skewer. Lu Ping didn't expect this primordial giant crocodile to be so insidious. He immediately stopped talking and only used the soaring wing sword to speak. Since Lu Ping wanted to test his skills, he naturally wouldn't rely on the magic cloud's speed to engage in guerrilla warfare. Instead, He landed on the sea and used the wave-treading technique to face the primordial giant crocodile head-on. The soaring wing sword danced up and down, and Lu Ping used the raging waves crashing shore technique, stone-piercing technique, and green serpent sea disturbance technique of the North Sea's 12 absolutes. At the same time, he also used the other spells from the 12 absolutes to help Lu Ping fight the primordial giant crocodile. The primordial giant crocodile's position in the monster race was similar to that of the green sea snake. This type of monster was always in existence that was difficult to defeat among monsters and cultivators of the same level. The primordial giant crocodile was shocked that Lu Ping, who was only at the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm, was able to fight it head-on. The primordial giant crocodile stirred up huge waves on the surface of the sea. The waves immediately turned into water snakes, water ducks, water rats, water swallows, water gulls, water fishes, water crocodiles, water scorpions, and so on. All of them flew towards Lu Ping, as if they wanted to devour Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't panic. The wave-treading technique flashed under his feet. Using the sea deception technique, he immediately left behind 9 identical Lu Ping on the surface of the sea. The soaring wing sword turned into a pair of wings and pressed against a water serpent that rose from the sea. The water serpent that had grown wings flashed on the surface of the sea, cutting down all the water snakes, water rats, and water ducks that flew towards it. There were some that were lucky enough to escape the water serpent's attack. When they attacked the 9 Lu Pings, they discovered that they were only attacking a waterman formed from seawater. When they tried to find a new target, the waterman suddenly swallowed the small animals formed from seawater, turning it back into a puddle of seawater. Lu Ping broke the primordial giant crocodile's spell. The soaring wing sword shook, and the water serpent made a roaring motion towards the sky, pouncing towards the crocodile in front of it. The primordial giant crocodile curled its lips in disdain. It opened its mouth and tore the water serpent's body in half. The soaring wing sword slashed horizontally, but it was blocked by the crocodile's 2 front claws. After 2 metallic clangs, the soaring wing sword was blocked by the crocodile. Lu Ping stretched out his hand to recall the soaring wing sword, but the crocodile's 2 front claws were left with 2 cuts. The crocodile didn't care, but it looked at Lu Ping with even more fiery eyes. Lu Ping understood this kind of look. It was a kind of excitement when he met an opponent that could make him go all out. Lu Ping looked dignified, and the soaring wing sword hovered up and down around Lu Ping, ready to attack at any time. The crocodile roared and swung its long tail. A huge wave seemed to be attached to its tail, sweeping towards Lu Ping. This move again. Although Lu Ping had once taken this move, he still didn't dare to be careless. After all, he had a water-repellent shield on him at that time. Not to mention the general trend contained in this move really made Lu Ping dare not take it lightly. Lu Ping cast the water control art to weaken the giant crocodile's control over the wave. At the same time, he rammed the soaring wing swords into the wave and used the rock-piercing sword art to finally neutralize the wave's attack. Just as the wave collapsed in midair, the scattered water droplets suddenly became cold, turning into ice blades, ice arrows, ice spikes, hailstones, and ice caltrops, smashing towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping felt like he was facing the collapse of an iceberg. There was no way out, and he could only welcome the fate of being drowned by the ice and snow. General trend. It's the general trend again. Lu Ping struggled to break free from this feeling of powerlessness. He threw out a few blood condensation talismans. Water shield talismans, giant wave talismans, water curtain talismans, wild wind talismans, wood vine talismans, earth wall talismans, and other types of talismans. These talismans were used to continuously whittle away the various ice-type spells that were flying towards him. At the same time, Lu Ping cast out 2 water-type mid-grade defensive mystic instruments that he had obtained some time ago and protected himself in them. The soaring wing sword also danced in front of him like a ball of light. Finally, he managed to find a way out of the collapsing iceberg. At this moment, only one of the 2 mid-grade mystic instruments hovering above Lu Ping's head was left, while the other had been smashed into pieces. Before Lu Ping could feel his heart ache, he felt a chill on his neck. Lu Ping did not have the time to rejoice. He swung the soaring wing sword backwards, and a series of cracking sounds could be heard. The giant crocodile, which had unknowingly appeared behind Lu Ping, and was about to bite off Lu Ping's neck, had all its sharp teeth broken by the soaring wing sword. At the same time, Lu Ping used the wave-treading technique to send himself forward, and used the remaining mid-grade artifact to block the attack. With a clang, the artifact had already been smashed into pieces by the giant crocodile's front claws. Lu Ping, who thought that he had escaped the giant crocodile's series of killer moves, had just turned around when he saw the giant crocodile's large mouth bulge. Immediately after, it spat out the teeth that had been broken by the soaring wing sword towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping's divine sense clearly told him that the 72 flying teeth were not broken by the soaring wing sword from the giant crocodile's mouth. Instead, they were truly 72 low-grade artifacts. They densely covered the space where Lu Ping could dodge. Lu Ping's face turned pale with fright. It was already too late for him to summon another defensive artifact. He could only use the soaring wing sword to cast the Azure Dragon Sea Disturbance technique to protect himself. At the same time, he cast the art of traveling clouds and summoning rain. Torrential rain poured down. Every drop of rain contained a trace of Lu Ping's magic power. The raindrops continuously struck the 72 low-grade artifacts, knocking them down or deflecting them. By the time the art of traveling clouds and summoning rain dissipated, Lu Ping had already retreated a few dozen meters. His clothes had already been reduced to strips of cloth, and his limbs were covered in scratches. Fortunately, due to the spirit serpent armor's protection, all of Lu Ping's injuries were superficial. When the giant crocodile saw that Lu Ping had actually blocked its all-out attack, it was stunned for a moment. Then it became angry. No one had ever been able to escape from its killer move. Even demonic beasts and human cultivators with higher cultivation levels than it were often defeated by its chain of attacks. Even if they didn't die, they would be severely injured. How could this fifth-layer blood condensation realm human cultivator Lu Ping survive? The enraged giant crocodile slammed its claws towards the surface of the sea. The 72 low-grade artifacts forged by Lu Ping immediately merged together, forming a high-grade sawtooth saber. Magic power flowed on the surface of the saber, and the sawtooth gleamed with a bloodthirsty light. It was clear that this was a life-bound artifact forged from the teeth that the giant crocodile had shed. The giant crocodile roared angrily and swung the saber at Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping, who was standing a few dozen meters away, suddenly let out a long howl and laughed. So that's how it is. So this is the so-called force. After Lu Ping escaped from the giant crocodile's series of attacks with great difficulty, he recalled the huge wave created by the giant crocodile's tail sweep, the Xianling sect's pale-faced cultivator's sneak attack, and the avalanche of snow and ice during the battle with the giant crocodile. These scenes kept replaying in Lu Ping's mind. Lu Ping had finally opened the door to the final stage of the Force realm. Lu Ping swung his sword horizontally, like a great river flowing to the east, the irresistible force. Chapter 131. The primitive giant crocodile did not expect Lu Ping to comprehend the realm of momentum at this moment. When the giant crocodile waved its natal instrument, the sawtooth broadsword, and slashed at Lu Ping swept his two swords and suddenly performed a strange sword skill. The sword skill of the 12 skills of the North Sea. Before, Lu Ping always felt that he could not completely grasp this sword skill and could not fully exert its power, so he rarely used it in fights. Now that Lu Ping suddenly comprehended the realm of momentum, he completely understood the essence of this sword skill. Lu Ping swept his two swords, and the giant crocodile's broadsword collided with it. In the sound of metal colliding, the giant crocodile suddenly felt that it was in a big river. It tried to go against the current, but it was no match for the surging torrent, and was swept back dozens of feet in an instant. The giant crocodile saw that it was beaten back dozens of feet by Lu Ping on the sea, and its face was full of disbelief. Lu Ping was not going to let it go. After mastering the sword skill for the first time, Lu Ping could not suppress his excitement. Under the agitation of his mind, the soaring wing sword, accompanied by Lu Ping's long roar, sprayed out 49 swords in a row, and gathered into a rolling long river, rushing at the primitive giant crocodile. Naturally, the primitive giant crocodile did not show weakness. As a natural watermaster with tens of thousands of years of noble bloodline, and at the same time it had completely mastered the realm of momentum, the primitive giant crocodile had its own pride. The serrated broadsword was like an iron chain crossing the river, and also like a diversion dam. A pale saber chi spread out, and suddenly condensed into a crystal ice blade in the air. With a cold and bleak chi, it cut Lu Ping's sword chi torrent into two from the middle. The two of them exchanged dozens of moves, moving back and forth on the surface of the sea for several miles around them. Both of them were experts with extraordinary comprehension of water, so they stirred up the seawater in this part of the sea until it was turbulent. In the previous exchange, although the primitive giant crocodile did not defeat Lu Ping, it still had the upper hand. This time, the primitive giant crocodile finally realized that it could no longer gain the upper hand. The fight between the two was a true tie. The primitive giant crocodile originally wanted to rely on its far superior spiritual power to defeat the human in front of it. But after such a long time, the primitive giant crocodile was sad to find that the spiritual power of this level 5 blood condensation cultivator was no weaker than its. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was in high spirits as he practiced the Great River Flows East skillfully. Seeing that he had achieved his goal of practicing the Great River Flows East, and his strength had greatly increased, he decided to keep the primordial giant crocodile here. Aside from the fact that this giant crocodile also inherited the bloodline of a flood dragon, its level 7 blood condensation cultivation and spiritual power proved that the primitive giant crocodile was worthy of being on the same level as the green sea snake in the demon race. If Lu Ping was lucky enough to obtain the condensed blood bead after killing this giant crocodile, Lu Ping's cultivation would reach the level 6 blood condensation realm, and his path to the late blood condensation realm would be smooth sailing. Moreover, the crocodile was an essential part of Lu Ping's Dharma idol. After making up his mind, Lu Ping's expression hardened, and a murderous aura surged out. Up until now, Lu Ping had killed dozens of human cultivators and hundreds of demon beasts. Naturally, he also had a murderous aura around him. The giant crocodile's spiritual sense was very sensitive, and it sensed Lu Ping's murderous aura the moment it appeared. However, it didn't care. Even if it couldn't defeat this human cultivator, it could just retreat. The giant crocodile was confident that if it wanted to leave, ordinary level 9 blood condensation cultivators wouldn't be able to stop it. Just as the human and the demon were locked in battle, Lu Ping pointed with his left hand, and an iron stamp suddenly appeared above the giant crocodile's head. The landslide, which was 3 feet and 3 inches in length and width, came crashing down on the giant crocodile's huge body. Even though the giant crocodile had a huge body and endless strength, and it had condensed a water tower above its head to block the attack, it still underestimated the power of the landslide. The landslide smashed the water tower into pieces, and a huge gash appeared on the top of its head. Blood gushed out, and its huge body was smashed into the sea several feet deep by the landslide. Just as the giant crocodile was dizzy from the impact, Lu Ping's twin swords parried the sawtooth blade, broke through the giant crocodile's protective energy barrier, and landed 2 slashes on its shoulder. However, the giant crocodile's skin was thick, and its toughness was no weaker than a high-grade defensive artifact. Even though the soaring wing sword was a high-quality high-grade artifact, after breaking through the late blood condensation cultivator's protective energy barrier, it didn't have much power anymore. It only managed to slice off 2 pieces of the crocodile's skin, and to the giant crocodile, it was just a superficial wound. Even so, the giant crocodile was furious when it woke up from the pain. As a giant crocodile, it had never suffered such a huge loss before. The enraged giant crocodile finally lost its mind, stirring up huge waves on the sea surface. Its sawtooth blade slashed horizontally, vertically, and diagonally, bombarding Lu Ping. Lu Ping kept retreating, calmly taking on the giant crocodile's attacks. Landslide smashed down from the sky again. The giant crocodile, who was already prepared, swung its long tail and slapped Landslide to the side. Landslide smashed into the sea, splashing up waves that were 80 to 90 feet high. However, the giant crocodile's long tail stiffened as if its bones were broken, causing the giant crocodile's body to stagnate again. Lu Ping took advantage of the situation and made 2 more cuts on the giant crocodile's tail, further enraging the giant crocodile. Under the double cooperation of the soaring wing sword and landslide, the enraged giant crocodile suffered a few losses in a row. Finally, it woke up and found that it had completely fallen into a disadvantageous position. It was like a clumsy puppet being played by Lu Ping. Although Lu Ping couldn't do anything to this demon beast for a while, it was still heavily wounded by the piecemeal attacks. Its half-human body was dripping with blood. The giant crocodile finally realized that it had lost. If it went on like this, it would eventually be played to death by this abominable human in front of it. Fear was born and it wanted to retreat. The giant crocodile showed its original form and rolled 7 times in the sea. 7 huge waves surged on the sea surface. The serrated broadsword suddenly broke apart and turned into the huge waves, rushing at Lu Ping one after another. Each wave was wrapped in a layer of sharp qi. Once Lu Ping was hit, he would be smashed into pieces. Lu Ping looked dignified. He stomped his feet and a big wave also appeared under his feet. The soaring wing swords were like 2 elves playing in the big waves. The big waves surged head-on and swallowed the 7 huge waves in a row. The soaring wing swords moved back and forth, smashing the 7 qi of the broadswords. When Lu Ping smashed the 7 huge waves and looked up, he found that the giant crocodile had already retreated in the direction where it came from under the cover of the huge waves. At this time it had already walked a distance of nearly 100 meters. Lu Ping didn't expect that the giant crocodile, which was still angry and moving forward, would play a trick at this time. Since Lu Ping had made up his mind to keep this giant crocodile, he naturally wouldn't let it escape. He sneered and said, "Can you escape? Today I will make sure you won't be able to return." After that, the white cloud under Lu Ping's feet flashed, and the magic cloud had already carried Lu Ping to chase the giant crocodile. The giant crocodile, which had changed back to its original form, fled in the water quickly. It turned its head and sneered, "Although I lost to you, it's also a delusion if you want to keep me here." Lu Ping followed closely behind the giant crocodile. He didn't answer when he heard the words, but a sarcastic smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The giant crocodile, which was swimming quickly in the water, suddenly froze. "What is that?" Then there was a muffled dong sound. A huge sea turtle was knocked forward by the primordial giant crocodile. The primordial giant crocodile's huge body was also stopped for a moment. At this moment, the primordial giant crocodile suddenly felt its 2 hind limbs and tail suddenly tighten, as if it was tied up by a rope. The primordial giant crocodile struggled hard, and the 3 water snakes were thrown back by the primordial giant crocodile. The giant crocodile was once again dragged back. When it turned its head to look, it immediately cried out in shock, "Green sea snake! How did you get the help of the green sea snake? How is this possible? Could it be?" The giant crocodile seemed like it wanted to say something, but it suddenly heard a sharp cry from above. A huge green bird swooped down and clawed at the giant crocodile's eyes. The giant crocodile dodged to the side, but 2 bloody holes appeared on its back. The green bird was different from the other 4 spirit beasts. It was a demonic bird at the peak of the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. If the giant crocodile was caught off guard, it would be able to injure it. This time, the giant crocodile's body completely stopped moving. At this moment, a strange sound pierced through the air behind it. When the giant crocodile turned its head to look, a dazzling green light blinded its eyes. At the same time, a sharp killing intent made the giant crocodile shiver all over its body. As soon as the primordial giant crocodile realized that something was wrong, it felt its body lighten. Then the world began to turn in its eyes. Before the primordial giant crocodile lost consciousness, it finally saw the body that was glowing in green light. It was a simple flying sword. The primordial giant crocodile knew about this kind of celestial device because its big brother, the primordial giant crocodile, who only had a crocodile mouth left, had such a top-level celestial device. Lu Ping fumbled with the green flying sword in his hand. This was a top-grade waterwood dual-attribute flying sword he obtained from the core forging cave on Feiling Island. When Lu Ping broke through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm, he had successfully refined this Qinghan sword. However, wielding a top-grade magic weapon consumed too much energy. At that time, Lu Ping, who was at the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm, could only launch a few attacks. Of course, the power of a top-grade magic weapon was undeniable. Previously, when Lu Ping used a high-grade magic weapon, he could only injure the primordial giant crocodile. However, the top-grade magic weapon was able to behead the primordial giant crocodile in one strike. While Lu Ping was immersed in the satisfaction of killing a late-stage blood condensation realm demonic beast in a head-on battle, Debao was excitedly standing on the back of Lu Daguay, who was swimming towards Lu Ping. He was shouting excitedly at Lu Ping. Obviously, he had found something good. Chapter 132. When Debao finally swam to Lu Ping's side, Debao eagerly jumped onto Lu Ping's back. It crawled onto Lu Ping's shoulder and showed Lu Ping what it held in its hands. After entering the blood condensation realm, Debao could finally shrink his fat body. Otherwise, Lu Ping's shoulder wouldn't be able to accommodate Debao's growing body. 7 condensed blood pearls glowed with a misty red light as they rolled around in Lu Ping's hands. Each pearl was protected by a thin layer of red energy. This was also one of the signs of a late blood condensation realm cultivator. Lu Ping sighed inwardly at his good luck this time. Lu Ping had spent a lot of effort to use his spirit pets to slow down the primordial giant crocodile's speed. Then he used the top-grade magic artifact, the Qinghan sword, to kill the crocodile in one blow. All of this was so that the primordial giant crocodile wouldn't have enough time to destroy its core space. He didn't expect it to succeed. After experiencing the enormous spiritual energy contained in the 7 condensed blood pearls, Lu Ping finally had the greatest support to break through to the late blood condensation realm. As expected of a demonic beast that was on the same level as the green sea snake. Debao, Dagui, and Samling also looked at the 7 condensed blood pearls in Lu Ping's hands covetously. However, they knew that with their current cultivation, even half a pearl would be enough to kill them, let alone one. Lu Qin, who was at the 6th level of the blood condensation realm, was qualified to use it. However, she cultivated dual elemental energy of wind and fire, so the water elemental condensed blood pearls couldn't be used. Therefore, the proud blue phoenix only glanced at the 7 condensed blood pearls before landing on Dague's back to comb its feathers. Poor Dague first blocked the primeval giant crocodile and was knocked away, becoming the only wounded person in this fight. Later, not only did he drag the fat Debao over, but he also became the Cyan Phoenix's foothold. Lu Ping threw 5 high-grade blood condensation pills to the 5 spiritual pets, and fed a clear jade pill to Lu Dague. He smiled and said, "Everyone contributed a lot in killing the primordial giant crocodile, but Dague is the one who contributed the most. This crocodile's blood is enough for me to concoct the barrier-breaking pill to help Dague break through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm." The other spiritual pets revealed envious expressions. This was the blood of a late-stage blood condensation realm demonic beast. The energy contained in it was comparable to a mid-stage blood condensation blood pearl. It was naturally of the best quality to concoct the barrier-breaking pill. Lu Dague would definitely break through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Lu Ping recalled his spiritual pets. The entire carcass of the primordial giant crocodile was a treasure. Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't let go of it. Other than the several hundred kilograms of crocodile meat, which Lu Ping wanted to keep for his spiritual pets, the rest of the crocodile's skin and bones were excellent spiritual materials for forging high-grade magic tools. Especially its 4 huge claws and a tailbone that was nearly 3 meters long. They were excellent spirit materials for crafting strange magic tools. Other than that, there was a palm-sized drum and 16 drumsticks. Lu Ping recognized them as the battle drums that the demon soldiers used to attack. It was a set of mid-grade magic tools. There was also a formation map that recorded a type of formation called the 4 prison chain formation. It was used to train demon soldiers or Dao soldiers. It was the formation used by the demon soldiers earlier. These 2 strange objects piqued Lu Ping's interest. He would discuss it with Hu Lili when he had time. There was also a simple map of the North Sea demon race's territory. This was a pleasant surprise. Lu Ping carefully put it away. There was nothing else. Before entering the core forging realm, demon beasts had the habit of swallowing all the spiritual materials, spirit stones, and spirit herbs they collected. Even if they couldn't use them, they would store them in their bodies for future use. This was why blood condensation demon beasts didn't have many things to store. However, this also strengthened their bodies and bones, making them desirable items for hunting demon beasts. After dealing with the crocodile, Lu Ping quickly flew to the west. Not to mention the crocodile's 3 siblings, Lu Ping could also sense that there were at least core forging realm monster enlightened masters behind the 4 primordial giant crocodiles, from the well-trained monster soldiers they brought along and the conversation they had. Lu Ping knew that these core forging experts had some unfathomable abilities. It was possible that the core-forging demon beasts would notice when the primordial giant crocodile was killed. If he was too late, he wouldn't be a match for the 3 late blood condensation giant crocodiles. What Lu Ping didn't know was that the giant crocodile's status was much higher than Lu Ping had estimated. For hours after Lu Ping left, the 3 giant crocodiles finally realized something was wrong. By the time the 3 demons found the place where the 2 had fought, only the scent of the fallen primordial giant crocodile could be found. What Lu Ping didn't know was that the giant crocodile's status was much higher than Lu Ping had estimated. Lu Ping's portrait had already spread among the demon race. When Lu Ping stepped into the demon sea again, he would face endless pursuit from the demon race. In the next few days, Lu Ping headed back to the North Sea archipelago. Along the way, he organized all the spiritual materials he collected in the past 5 years. He also obtained 2 storage pouches from the Overturned Seas gang members that died in Lu Ping's hands. A high-grade Earth-type flying sword was obtained from the 6th layer blood condensation realm cultivator. It could be considered his biggest harvest. Initially, Lu Ping planned to search their interspatial pouches to see if he could obtain any information about the Overturned Sea sect. Unfortunately, there were only a dozen bottles of high-quality medicinal pellets and 25,000 spirit stones. There were no jade scrolls or anything that could record information. The Overturned Sea sect was indeed not as simple as it seemed. Fortunately, Lu Ping was very satisfied with his harvest of pills and spirit stones. He secretly praised these pirates for robbing others. They were indeed rich. Especially the 6th layer blood condensation realm cultivator. He actually had a high-grade spirit stone. This made Lu Ping very happy. High-grade spirit stones were no longer limited to cultivation. Once a spirit stone reached high grade, it could be used in many other ways. As far as Lu Ping knew, he had a few pill recipes that used high-grade spirit stones and spiritual herbs to refine pills. Other than that, from his conversation with Chen Lian, Lu Ping found out that high-grade and top-grade magic tools also required high-grade spirit stones as spiritual materials. High-grade spirit stones could be said to be a cultivator's jack of all trades. Autumn Cloud Island was a small island located south of the North Sea archipelago. There was a small spirit vein on the island. It was occupied by a medium-sized independent family, the Cho family. The Cho family was also the true owner of the island. It was said that the Cho family had 4 core forging realm enlightened masters. One of them was even a mid-stage core forging realm expert. After the sea ban was lifted, Autumn Cloud Island became a base for cultivators in the southern part of the North Sea archipelago. The current head of the Cho family finally grasped this opportunity. After several years of hard work, the originally declining Cho family finally got rid of their embarrassing situation. Lu Ping wandered in the demon territory for 5 years. During this period he had no idea where he was. It was only after he met the 2 cultivators, Chong and Huang, that he found out that he was far away from Jinling's territory. He had arrived at the southern part of the North Sea archipelago. This Autumn Cloud Island was the closest human territory to Lu Ping. In these 5 years, Lu Ping had been training intensely and fighting with the demon beasts. He also had to hide his tracks at all times. It could be said that he was always in a state of nervousness, always on guard against the arrival of danger. After arriving at Autumn Cloud Island and seeing the endless stream of humans, Lu Ping suddenly had a feeling of returning home. His body and mind were bursts of exhaustion. Lu Ping arrived at an inn. Without waiting for the waiter to speak, he directly threw a mid-grade spirit stone at him. He went to a heaven-class high-grade guest room. After instructing the waiter not to disturb him, he went to sleep, leaving the waiter standing alone at the door of the room. He looked at the mid-grade spirit stone in his hand and laughed foolishly. It was only when the shopkeeper who heard the news rushed over and snatched the spirit stone from the waiter's hand that the waiter let out a wail and hurriedly chased after Lu Ping. After saying a lot of good things, he finally got 5 low-grade spirit stones from the shopkeeper. Lu Ping slept for 3 days and 3 nights. Originally, with Lu Ping's cultivation, as long as he cultivated a little every day, he wouldn't need to sleep at all. However, this kind of mental fatigue made Lu Ping very much miss this most primitive and relaxing way of rest. 3 days later, when Lu Ping came out of the inn in high spirits, the clever waiter was already waiting at the door. Seeing that he was clever, Lu Ping directly ordered him to take him to Chou Yun Island's market square to deal with a batch of things. The waiter was overjoyed. He quickly informed the shopkeeper and took Lu Ping to stroll around this Chou Yun Island. The waiter talked non-stop along the way, explaining to Lu Ping the customs and scenery of Chou Yun Island. Although Lu Ping usually didn't talk much, it didn't mean that he was eccentric. On the contrary, he liked to listen to others and liked to gather with people. Especially when Lu Ping was wandering overseas for 5 years, he could only communicate with his spiritual pet. Now that there was a chatterbox beside him who kept talking, it made Lu Ping feel a sense of familiarity. Not to mention, the waiter should often talk to strangers. Therefore, not only was he eloquent, some of the anecdotes he talked about were also affectionate and very attractive. In the past few years, Lu Ping had accumulated a lot of spiritual materials by hunting demonic beasts. Except for a few high-grade spiritual materials that Lu Ping wanted to bring to Chanlian, the rest were exchanged for spirit stones. In the past 5 years, the spirit stones that Lu Ping used for cultivation were all accumulated before. Not a single spirit stone entered his account when he was overseas, so he could only sit and eat. Even if Lu Ping had a net worth of 100,000 spirit stones, he still couldn't bear it. This batch of spiritual materials brought Lu Ping an income of nearly 30,000 spirit stones. In addition to the previous spoils of war, Lu Ping finally had a little more money. At noon, Lu Ping brought the waiter to a restaurant on the island that was specially opened for cultivators to have a big meal. After the meal, they even ordered a pot of spiritual tea brewed with the mid-grade spiritual material, Rain Mist Tea, which cost Lu Ping a total of 5 mid-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping's extravagant behavior truly opened the eyes of the waiter, who was only at the second layer of the blood-refining realm. The waiter held a cup of spiritual tea in his hand and drank it for 2 hours. If it wasn't for the fact that the teacup was made with a special heat preservation artifact, the tea would have turned cold long ago. After a short break at noon, Lu Ping followed the waiter to visit all the shops that sold spiritual herbs on Autumn Cloud Island. Lu Ping selectively bought some spiritual herbs according to the price. In the past 5 years, although Lu Ping had worked very hard to hunt demonic beasts, because the condensed blood beads were very hard to obtain, Lu Ping could barely concoct enough medicinal pills to sustain himself. Other than nearly 100 stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, he had used up all the spiritual herbs he had. When the sun was setting in the west, Lu Ping, who had gained quite a lot, ended his day of shopping. Under the waiter's guidance, he returned to the inn. At this moment, the divine sense that Lu Ping spread out suddenly detected something. Lu Ping turned to the waiter beside him and said, "Brother, I still have some matters to attend to. I will make a move first. You can go back first." Chapter 133. The waiter said, "Big brother Lu, when are you coming back? I'll ask the innkeeper to keep the door open for you." Lu Ping smiled. "There's no need to. I'll probably leave after I'm done with my business. You've helped me a lot today, so I'll give this to you." When the waiter was about to thank Lu Ping was nowhere to be seen. He scratched his head and walked towards the inn alone. After taking 2 steps, the waiter's footsteps came to a halt. Then, he immediately quickened his pace and hurriedly walked toward the inn. "No matter what, I have to apply for a month's leave from the innkeeper. I don't even want this month's salary. I need to break through to the 3rd layer first." The waiter clenched the storage pouch in his hand. This was the first time he owned a storage artifact. Inside the storage pouch were 3 bottles of early blood refining realm pills, and 1 bottle of mid-blood refining realm pills. Other than that, there were also 100 low-grade spirit stones. These were things that Lu Ping could give away casually, but to the waiter, they were a huge fortune. After the waiter's explanation, Lu Ping had a good understanding of the streets of Autumn Cloud Island. Lu Ping pretended to be strolling on the streets, but in reality, he was tailing behind 2 cultivators dressed in black robes and wearing cloaks. On the way back to the inn, Lu Ping constantly spread out his divine sense to monitor the surroundings, out of the lessons he learned from his life and death experiences. Unexpectedly, this precautionary measure yielded an unexpected discovery. Lu Ping used his powerful divine sense to avoid the detection of the 2 cultivators. At the same time, he discovered their identities. These 2 cultivators left a deep impression on Lu Ping. Both of them were from the Overflowing Seas gang. One was the red-robed hall master from the Raging Seas gang that Lu Ping had just met. The other was the late blood condensation realm expert from the Overflowing Seas gang that chased after Lu Ping 5 years ago. That pursuit caused Lu Ping to suffer heavy losses. It took him almost a year to recuperate. The two of them were also extremely cautious. They turned a few streets in a row, and occasionally split up to look behind each other to prevent being followed. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping's divine sense was far superior compared to theirs, he would have been discovered long ago. Even so, this allowed Lu Ping to witness how cultivators who had survived through a sea of blood could ensure their own safety. Due to that, Lu Ping felt that he had benefited greatly from it. 2 hours later, the two of them finally arrived at the back door of a manor. The two of them nodded at the cultivators who were setting up stalls on both sides of the street. The cultivators there shook their heads, indicating that they were not being followed. Next, the two of them flashed into the manor. However, the four of them did not notice that long before the two from the Overflowing Seas sect arrived, a young cultivator had already arrived at a stall outside the manor. He was haggling over a mid-grade spiritual material with the cultivator who set up the stall. When he saw the two enter the manor, the young man shook his head regretfully. In the end, he gave up on buying the spiritual material and turned to leave. To be able to build such a huge manor in the middle of the city square, other than the local tyrant of Autumn Cloud Island, the Cho family, who else could it be? Lu Ping casually tipped a waiter 10 spirit stones at a tea house not far from the manor. He then asked the waiter to find a seat by the window on the neighboring street. Lu Ping brewed a pot of mid-grade spiritual tea, and enjoyed the storyteller's Legend of the North Sea Immortals in the tea house. He was in a leisurely mood. Nearly 2 hours later, the sky had darkened. The two cultivators who entered the manor finally walked out one after another. After paying the bill, Lu Ping continued following behind the three nonchalantly, relying on his divine sense to keep an eye on the two of them from afar. The two of them left Autumn Cloud Island and flew eastward for several hundred kilometers. Then they landed on a desolate island where not even a single blade of grass grew. The late blood condensation cultivator from the Overflowing Seas sect who chased after Lu Ping said, "Senior Brother Hong, I'll be sending you off here. Take care." The leader of the Fury Sea Hall, Senior Marshal Brother Hong, looked tired. He cupped his hands and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Yuan, I'll leave the Fury Sea Hall to you this time. It's all because of my incompetence that I fell into the demonic beast's trap. Our Fury Sea Hall had 100 good men, but only 30 of them managed to escape. This time when we return to the palace we still have to be punished in public. I really don't have the face to go back and see Master." Junior Brother Yuan saw Senior Brother Hong's agitated expression and quickly comforted him. "Senior Brother Hong, you don't have to be like this. Who would have thought that the demonic beasts would be so cunning? It's already good enough that you managed to protect 30 of your brothers after the battle with the North Sea cultivators. If it were me, I might have been completely annihilated." Senior Brother Hong said, "You don't have to comfort me, Junior Brother. It's not like you didn't see that old bastard Cho Yuantian's face just now. He clearly pushed all the blame for the defeat to me and reported it to the palace. The palace removed my position as the Fury Sea Hall's leader. Although it sounded nice on the surface, it was actually to punish me." Junior Brother Yuan also chimed in. "That old bastard Cho is really a vile person. Back then, he was the one who strongly approved of Senior Brother setting up an ambush at the pirates' treasure vault and ambushing the North Sea cultivators. Now that you've been ambushed by the demonic beasts and even his grandson died, he's not admitting it. He even pushed all the blame for his grandson's death onto Senior Brother. His Cho family has been in the North Sea for too long, and doesn't know that you're from the palace. I think this demonic beast ambush was clearly the Cho family colluding with the North Sea sects to break away from the palace and establish their own sect." Senior Brother Hong shook his head and said, "Junior Brother, be careful with your words. These words are just us brothers venting our anger, and must not be spread. Not to mention that the Cho family can't and won't dare to establish their own sect. The Cho family still has that person in the palace. If Junior Brother's words are reported to the palace, then even Marshal Uncle Yuan won't be able to protect you." Junior Brother Yuan knew that he had said the wrong thing and immediately smiled awkwardly. "Senior Brother, Don't worry and return to the palace. With Marshal Uncle Tsin around, even if the palace wants to punish senior brother, it won't be too severe. Moreover, senior brother has made quite a few contributions in the North Sea these past few years. The elders in the palace will definitely take note of it. Senior brother Hong nodded and said, in that case, I'll leave the Raging Sea Hall to you, junior brother. During this period of time, focus on recuperating and restoring your strength. Don't fight over the merits. First, the cultivators from the North Sea sects have increased their vigilance. Second, we don't want to fall into someone's trap. Junior Marshal Brother Yuan naturally knew who Senior Marshal Brother Hong was referring to. He smiled and said, don't worry, Senior Marshal Brother. My cultivation and ability are not as good as Senior Marshal Brother's. I can be a mediocre hall leader. Senior Brother Hong nodded and pressed down on a spot on the island's shore. Suddenly, the center of the island sank soundlessly. Two 7th-layer blood condensation realm cultivators leaped out from the sunken ground and shouted in a low voice, who is it? Junior Brother Yuan stretched out his hand and took out a hexagonal jade token. He said, the overflowing sea gang's Raging Sea Hall leader, Yuan Shikong, has been ordered to escort the former hall leader, Hong Shikui, back to the palace. The two men verified the token and found that there were no mistakes. One of them said, the teleportation array is ready. There will be someone on the other side of the array to receive you. However, in order to fool people, the destination is quite far away from the palace. Senior Brother Hong signaled that he understood. The two men who appeared later arrived at the center of the island that had already been flattened. There was a large-scale teleportation array that was about 30 meters wide. The two men waved their hands, and a total of 49 mid-grade spirit stones were embedded in different parts of the array. At that moment, Junior Marshal Brother Yuan placed the jade card in his hand in the center of the teleportation array. After Senior Marshal Brother Hong stood in the middle of the array, the two cultivators simultaneously activated the array. A faint light flashed and Senior Marshal Brother Hong disappeared from the array. Junior Brother Yuan nodded at the two cultivators, turned around and went back the way he came. The island shook soundlessly before returning to its original state. The two cultivators also disappeared. A moment later, a huge sea turtle suddenly rose from the sea about a kilometer away from the island. Lu Ping sat on it deep in thought. Such a huge array, 36 mid-grade spirit stones, and only one person could be teleported. This was clearly a long-distance teleportation array. Could it be that the palace that Hong Shikui wanted to go to was not in the North Sea? In that case, the Overflowing Seas gang should be a faction that the mysterious palace sent to the North Sea. There was also the Chiu family, the Core Forging Enlightened Masters, and Fa Xiang Laozus in action. All of these seemed to prove something. Lu Ping continued to pursue the lone Yuan Shikong with many questions in his mind. Lu Ping wanted to kill Yuan Shikong along the way. Even though Yuan Shikong was an 8th-layer blood condensation realm expert, Lu Ping had fought with him when he was only at the 3rd layer. In the end, Lu Ping only managed to escape with heavy injuries. However, this also allowed Lu Ping to see Yuan Shikong's true strength. Even though Yuan Shikong was an 8th-layer blood condensation realm expert, Lu Ping believed that Yuan Shikong was far from being a match for the 7th-layer blood condensation realm primordial crocodile that died in his hands. However, Lu Ping was worried that if Yuan Shikong died, the Overflowing Seas gang and the Chiu family would definitely be alerted. There was an 80% to 90% chance that the teleportation array on the island would be destroyed. This teleportation array was the only clue leading to the mysterious palace behind the Overflowing Seas gang. Lu Ping's intuition told him that this teleportation array had a great use. Lu Ping followed Yuan Shikong back to the Chiu family's manor. Along the way, Lu Ping resisted the urge to kill Yuan Shikong. Just as Lu Ping was about to leave, he discovered that Yuan Shikong had left the Chiu family's manor alone. This time he was heading north. Lu Ping was overjoyed and slowly followed behind Yuan Shikong. Yuan Shikong was clearly not as vigilant as before. Perhaps it was because he had just completed a mission. Yuan Shikong's speed was extremely slow. Just as the sky was about to brighten, Yuan Shikong finally saw a small island a few li ahead of him. Yuan Shikong picked up his pace. Right at this moment, a gust of wind blew behind Yuan Shikong's head. Without thinking, he lowered his head. and a hexagonal translucent shield suddenly appeared above his head. A pair of green claws grabbed onto the slippery shield, leaving behind an ear-piercing screech. Following that, a loud screech could be heard. After missing its attack, a huge azure phoenix flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Just as Yuan Shikong lowered his head and raised his shield, two of the waves on the surface of the sea suddenly splashed higher, transforming into a pair of flying swords that slashed towards Yuan Shikong. Yuan Shikong's mouth curled into a cold smile. It's just a diversion. Yuan Shikong's lowered body shook, and two dart-like mystic instruments shot out, knocking the soaring swords off course. Just as Yuan Shikong was about to spread out his divine sense to search for the hidden killer, a sharp killing intent had already rushed towards Yuan Shikong's back. The dense cold chi made him truly understand what it meant to feel as if there was a dagger on one's back. A top-grade mystic instrument. Yuan Shikong cried out in shock. Chapter 134. A top-grade magic tool. Yuan Shikong was shocked. He hurriedly placed the hexagonal crystal shield on his back and channeled his arcane energy into it. However, it was too late. The top-grade flying sword pierced through the shield he hastily put behind him. Then the protective aura around the late blood condensation realm was also torn apart. Fortunately, the two layers of protection delayed the Qing Han sword's attack. Yuan Shikong dodged quickly and managed to avoid being hit in his vital organs. His abdomen was cut in half, but his life was not in danger. Yuan Shikong raised his hand towards the sky without hesitation. A blinding red light shot into the sky and exploded in the air. This was a signal for help. Yuan Shikong turned around and saw a young cultivator standing on a giant turtle swimming towards him. "It's you," Yuan Shikong exclaimed. How could this young man not leave a deep impression on him? 5 years ago, a third-layer blood condensation realm cultivator escaped from his hands, making him the laughingstock of the overflowing sea gang. Lu Ping smiled at the shocked Yuan Shikong. Yuan Shikong's heart turned cold when he saw Lu Ping's strange smile. He looked up and saw a giant metal seal smashing down from the sky. How is this possible? Yuan Shikong's face turned pale. He couldn't believe that a fifth-layer blood condensation realm minor repairs warrior could use a top-grade magic tool and 2 high-grade magic tools at the same time. How much arcane energy did he have to support this? Suddenly, a crystal bowl appeared in Yuan Shikong's hand. He lifted the bowl and a gush of seawater shot out from the bowl. The seawater turned into a giant hand in the air and firmly held landslide in the air. However, Yuan Shikong's arcane energy was overloaded, and he was already injured by Lu Ping. So he coughed out a mouthful of blood. So this person also has a top-grade magic tool. Lu Ping looked at the crystal bowl in Yuan Shikong's hand and smiled playfully. However, this crystal bowl was clearly refined by him not long ago. He hasn't fully mastered it yet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to use it so forcefully. The Qing Han sword turned around and slashed at Yuan Shikong's arm that was holding the crystal bowl. Yuan Shikong's arm shook, and a stream of water flowed out from the crystal bowl, causing the Qing Han sword to deviate from its course. However, the stream of water that was dragging landslide along started to sway due to the lack of transcendence energy. Yuan Shikong's transcendence energy surged, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. Let's see how much blood you can shed. Lu Ping saw that Yuan Shikong no longer had the strength to fight back. He could only use the top-grade magic weapon in his hand to block the Qing Han sword's attacks. At this moment, the figures of 2 cultivators suddenly rose from the miniature island a few miles away and flew in the direction of the battle between Lu Ping and Yuan Shikong. Yuan Shikong's face lit up. Lu Ping immediately understood that the other party's reinforcements were about to arrive. That small island must be the secret base of the Wrath Ocean clan. It might even be the base of the overturned Ocean clan. At this moment, Lu Ping was almost at his limit using a top-grade magic tool and a high-grade magic tool. He saw that Yuan Shikong could only passively defend under his sneak attack, and it was only a matter of time before he died. However, he did not expect the other party's reinforcements to arrive so quickly. Lu Ping cursed inwardly. He used his right thumb to cut his index finger. Blood immediately flowed out of his index finger, and 3 mid-grade needle-shaped magic tools appeared in Lu Ping's right hand. Lu Ping raised his right hand, and the 3 bloody flying needles headed straight for Yuan Shikong's chest. Yuan Shikong panicked. He gritted his teeth and used the crystal shield, which had already been pierced by the Qinghan sword, to block the needles. The 3 flying needles collided with the crystal shield and exploded, completely destroying the already damaged crystal shield. Fragments of the magic tool flew everywhere. Although Yuan Shikong tried his best to dodge the needles and even split the water in the crystal bowl to form a water shield to protect himself, his body still suffered 4 to 5 wounds from the explosion of the magic tools. Just as Yuan Shikong was secretly rejoicing that he had dodged the attack, 2 silent soaring swords suddenly flew out from the seawater behind him. The 2 swords intersected, and before Yuan Shikong realized it, his body had already been cut into 3 pieces. "Stop! How dare you!" At this moment, the 2 late blood condensation cultivators from the overturned Ocean clan were already within reach of Yuan Shikong and Yuan Shikong, but they could not stop Yuan Shikong's death in time. Lu Ping looked mockingly at the 2 newcomers. He took Yuan Shikong's interspatial pouch and mystic instrument and landed on the blue Luan's back. Lu Qin let out a long cry, flapped her wings, and flew a few hundred feet away in the blink of an eye. The 2 overturned Ocean clan cultivators tried their best to catch up to Lu Ping, but as Lu Qin flapped her wings, the distance between them grew larger and larger. In the end, the 2 overturned Ocean clan cultivators could only sigh helplessly as they disappeared into the horizon. On the other hand, Lu Ping was happily fiddling with the crystal bowl he obtained from Yuan Shikong. This top-grade mystic instrument was called the Frost Jade Glaze Bowl. It was a top-grade mystic instrument forged from a single piece of frost jade. It was very suitable for Lu Ping to use, but its only flaw was that although it could be used for both offense and defense, it wasn't very good at either. There was also the token that Yuan Shikong had shown when he had activated the teleportation array. On one side of the hexagonal jade token, there was a shining palace, and on the other side there was a surging sea. The huge waves were holding up a large seal character. New. As for the other spirit stones and magic tools, Lu Ping casually threw them into his storage ring. After all, he was a late blood condensation cultivator. His wealth was still considerable. Among them, there was a wonder pill recipe that interested Lu Ping. He could study it when he returned. Lu Ping rode on the Green Phoenix and headed east. After a few hundred miles, he turned north. Along the way, Lu Ping would stop at a small island and buy some goods from the island's marketplace. A month later, Lu Ping had passed through dozens of islands, including the territories of the Jade Sword sect and the ancient Ling sect. Finally, he returned to Jinling. On a small island called Black Lightning Island, Lu Ping showed the cultivator stationed on the island his identity token of Jinling. Through the teleportation array on the small island, he arrived at Earthstar Island, one of the 36 medium-sized islands in Jinling. In the marketplace of Earthstar Island, Lu Ping bought 500-year-old spiritual herbs from the shops that sold spiritual herbs as usual. After spending a few thousand spirit stones, he arrived at Earthstar Island through the teleportation array. Only medium-sized islands and above in Jinling could be connected to each other. The teleportation array on a small island could only be connected to a medium-sized island. 5 years later, Earthstar Island had become even more prosperous. The entire marketplace had expanded by a third. There was an endless stream of cultivators in the marketplace. Occasionally, core-forging enlightened masters could be seen flying in the sky. When Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island, although he was prepared, he was still surprised by the huge changes on Huangli Island. Lu Ping didn't stop and flew directly to his cave abode at the center of the island. 5 years had passed. He didn't know how his cave abode had changed. He didn't know if the spiritual vein in the cave abode had been discovered. However, before he left, he had embedded 108 middle-grade spirit stones into the Ice River Killing Array's array disk. It was enough for the array to run for 10 years. Of course, this was under the condition that the array was not attacked. As he got closer to the cave abode, Lu Ping looked at the light blue array shield that was still running. He felt relieved. Fortunately, the cave abode has not been invaded. At this moment, Lu Ping frowned and stopped. He slowly came to a small forest in front of the entrance of the cave abode. Lu Ping spread out his spiritual sense, which was nearly 100 feet wide. The scene that was happening in front of his cave abode was coincidentally seen by Lu Ping, Hu Lily, don't think that you are so great just because you have Lu Xian supporting you. Lu Ping has been missing for 5 years. To put it nicely, he has died outside. His body has probably been devoured by demonic beasts. According to our sect's rules, if a cultivator has been missing for more than 5 years, the sect has the right to take back the cave abode. Are you trying to stop us? Are you flouting our sect's rules? The person who spoke was Liu Li Ziming's son. After 5 years, he had also advanced to the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm. The 2 people beside him were also old acquaintances of Lu Ping. One was Li Cheng, who was now at the 4th level of the blood condensation realm. The other was Lin Shang, who was also at the 5th level of the blood condensation realm. Enemies really do meet. Lu Ping looked at the 3 of them. They were standing in front of his cave abode with 6 or 7 Jinling disciples. They were all holding magic tools in their hands. It seemed like they were going to break the ice river killing formation by force. The person standing in front of them was Hu Lily. Beside her were Chan Lian and Lu Ping's shopkeeper Fang Tao. After several years, Hu Lily had broken through the mid-stage blood condensation realm and reached the 4th level of the blood condensation realm. Chan Lian, on the other hand, had reached the 6th level of the blood condensation realm. His cultivation speed had finally surpassed Lu Ping's. There was nothing he could do about it. The difficulty of cultivating the North Sea wave listening technique left Lu Ping speechless. Hu Lily sneered. Liu, don't think I don't know what you guys are thinking. Although the sect has its rules, many of our disciples have gone out to explore beyond the designated time limit. It doesn't mean that the sect is in a hurry to take back their cave abode. Not to mention, Lu Ping's cave abode is outside of Tianling Mountain. You guys are just jealous of Lu Ping's cave abode. At this moment, Li Cheng spoke up. Senior Marshal Sister Hu, what you said is unreasonable. We're just following the sect's rules. We're not targeting Senior Marshal Brother Lu Ping. After all, he's been missing for more than 5 years. Out of respect for Senior Marshal Sister Hu and Master Immortal Lu, we've already delayed the matter for more than half a year. We can't just leave the cave abode idle, can we? Besides, after the cave abode is taken back, the sect will own it. How can you say that we're jealous? Hu Lily was so angry that she couldn't say anything. Chun Lian said, since you guys are following the sect's rules, why didn't you guys come to take back the cave abode when Master Immortal Lu was around? Now that Master Immortal Lu has brought Yao Yong, Dufeng, and Zhongjian to patrol the sea, you guys can't wait to take back the cave abode. What a joke. Chun Lian's words made the 3 of them blush. Liu simply said, let's not care about that. Anyway, we have a reason to follow the sect's rules. Let's destroy the cave protection array first. After saying that, he waved at the blood condensation cultivators behind him. Everyone took out their mystic instruments and prepared to attack. Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded. Haha. So everyone knows that I'm going home today. That's why you all came to visit me. What a coincidence. Unfortunately, my cave abode isn't big enough to accommodate Junior Marshal Brother Li, Junior Marshal Brother Lin, and all of you. Chapter 135. When the voice was heard, everyone looked towards the direction of the grove. Liu and the other 2 looked as if they had seen a ghost. Liu exclaimed, Lu Ping, how could you not die? As soon as the word died came out, Li Cheng and Lin Shang coughed at the same time. Liu's panicked expression disappeared, and he swallowed the rest of his words. Lu Ping was not angry when he heard this. He continued to smile and said, what? Does young Master Li know that I, Lu Ping, will die without a doubt? Liu also knew that he had said something wrong. He quickly forced a smile and said, How could that be? We were just too surprised that you were gone for so long. We thought that Junior Brother Lu had forgotten about your mission to secretly investigate the pirates. Lu Ping's expression changed. Lin Sheng saw that the atmosphere was not right. He quickly pulled Liu and Li Cheng and said, since Senior Brother Lu has returned safely, there is no need to take back the Immortal's cave mansion. You have saved us a lot of trouble. Junior brothers, let's go back first. Liu and Li Cheng also came to their senses. They casually said their goodbyes and turned towards Huangli Island's marketplace. Lu Ping leisurely said, you are plotting against this one's Immortal's cave mansion. You can come and go as you please. Do you really think that Lu Ping is easy to bully? The people who were about to leave stopped when they heard this. Liu was a hot-headed person. He directly said angrily, "Lu Ping, don't be so shameless. Do you really think that we won't smash your immortal's cave mansion today?" Lu Ping sneered and said, "You are so awe-inspiring. Then Lu Ping will have to experience your methods." Everyone was stunned when they heard Lu Ping's words. Hu Lili quickly said, "Let's wait for Master Immortal Lu to come back first. After all, they have the numbers advantage." Lu Ping looked at the 7 cultivators who came with the 3 of them. Among them, 3 were mid-blood condensation cultivators, including Li Chang and Lin Shang. There were 5 mid-blood condensation cultivators. Lin Shang and one of them was at 5th layer blood condensation, while the other 5 were early blood condensation cultivators. Lu Ping smiled and said, "It's fine. You can all come at me together." Lu Ping was blatantly looking down on them. The 10 cultivators looked ashamed and angry. Liu was even angrier and shouted, "Lu Ping, you're courting death. Don't blame others for it." He turned to the others and said, "Since they are looking down on us, there is no need for us to be polite. Let's attack together." The crowd cast out their mystic instruments and attacked Lu Ping. Even the arrogant Lin Shang and Li Chang also held their mystic instruments in their hands. However, they didn't attack together with the crowd. Instead, they were waiting to see if Lu Ping could withstand the crowd's attacks. If he could, they wouldn't need to fight. But if he couldn't, they wouldn't be accused of bullying others with numbers. Lu Ping saw the 2 of them taking out their magic tools and knew what they were planning. Today, Lu Ping wanted to teach them a lesson and establish his dominance on Huangli Island. Of course, he would not let them succeed. Lu Ping cast the Great River Flowing East Sword skill and crushed the 8 cultivators' attacks with an unstoppable momentum. The soaring wing swords didn't stop there. Instead, it turned into a torrent of water that flowed down from the sky and swept the 10 cultivators, including Li Chang and Lin Shang, into it. It was as if the 10 cultivators were swept away by a river made of sword rays. When the 10 cultivators finally broke free from the sword light, they realized that 2 of their mid-grade magic tools had been destroyed by Lu Ping. The remaining 8 were also sent flying. For a moment, the crowd couldn't accept such a huge defeat. They shouted in unison, either recalled their mystic instruments or took out their backup mystic instruments. Once again, they surrounded Lu Ping and attacked him. Previously, they were holding back because they had the advantage in numbers, but this time they were going all out. Lu Ping's attitude finally became serious. However, Lu Ping had defeated a late blood condensation realm primordial giant crocodile. There was no suspense in his victory. The soaring sword suddenly turned into 2 intersecting light balls and shot out 36 swords at the incoming magic tools, causing the cultivators' attacks to miss again. This time, Lu Ping did not hold back. After the 2 light balls repelled the cultivators' magic tools, they rolled towards the cultivators and shot out another 64 sword lights. Li Chang, Liu, and the other cultivators were caught off guard. Some of the weaker early blood condensation cultivators had their defensive magic tools and spells destroyed by Lu Ping. Lin Shang and the other mid-blood condensation realm cultivators fared slightly better. They used all their strength to dodge Lu Ping's sword rays, but before they could even straighten their backs, Lu Ping casually pointed his finger at them. The 2 light orbs trembled again and another 64 sword rays shot out from them. This time, not only the early blood condensation cultivators, but even Lin Shang and the others were shocked by Lu Ping's strength and killing intent. At the same time, a powerful divine sense circled around them, locking on to the 10 cultivators' chi. Just when everyone was ready to scream in their hearts, they did not feel the pain of a sharp blade piercing into their bodies as they had imagined. Just when everyone was at a loss, they suddenly felt a sharp pain on their buttocks. The huge impact sent all 10 of them flying and rolling on the ground. At the same time, the huge pain on their buttocks made everyone cover their buttocks with their hands and howl in pain. Everyone's buttocks had a long sword scar on them. Liu and the others struggled to stand up. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Then they glared at Lu Ping with hatred. Without saying a word, they turned around and led the others away. Lu Ping grinned and turned around to look at Hu Lili, Chen Lian and Feng Tao. He noticed that the 3 of them also looked like they had seen a ghost. Lu Ping smiled and asked, "Why? Even the 3 of you believe that I died overseas?" Feng Tao panicked and repeatedly said that he did not dare to believe it. Chen Lian smiled bitterly and said, "Junior brother has been missing for 5 years. I thought I could finally show off my cultivation speed. But I didn't expect that even though my cultivation level has caught up, my strength is still far behind." Hu Lili nodded in agreement and said, "1 against 10, junior brother is going to become famous soon." Lu Ping sighed and said, "If you had been in a state of constant fighting with demonic beasts for the past 5 years, I believe your strength would have improved by leaps and bounds." Chen Lian shrugged and did not say anything. Lu Ping came to the cave residence and cast a few spells. The ice river killing array suddenly opened up a path. It was not the first time that Chen Lian and Hu Lili came to Lu Ping's cave residence. After they entered, they were more casual. Lu Ping asked the 3 of them to sit down and brewed a pot of spirit tea. Chen Lian asked for a pot of the 100 spirit wine brewed by Lu Ping and drank alone. Hu Lili quickly asked Lu Ping about the past 5 years. Lu Ping gave a general explanation. Naturally, there were many omissions. After Chen Lian heard it, he slammed the table and said, "Sure enough, someone leaked your whereabouts. It must be Li Ziming and his son and that Lin Shang. I say, after junior brother didn't return at the appointed time, that Li, you couldn't wait to jump out and spread the news that you might have died overseas. He even took away your spirit grain field to cultivate. At the same time, he is still thinking about the pill and talisman pavilion that junior brother opened. Junior brother has been missing for 5 years, and this father and son pair proposed to take back your cave residence. Lin Shang and Li Cheng also secretly helped them. If it wasn't for Immortal Master Lu suppressing this matter, these people would have already broken into the ice river killing array." Lu Ping was actually prepared for the spirit field to be taken away. However, when he heard that these people were still thinking about his cave residence, he felt a little strange and asked, "The spirit field and the shop are not strange, but why are they thinking about my cave residence? When cultivators go out, they usually don't put their valuables in the cave residence, unless it is a secret cave residence." When Chen Lian heard this, he glanced at Hu Lili. Hu Lili tidied her hair and said, "Let me say this. In the 5 years that you were gone, several spots of spiritual energy suddenly appeared on Huangli Island. Now, the spiritual fields on the island have increased from 6 to 7 mu to 14 mu. The increase in these spots of spiritual energy naturally attracted the attention of the cultivators who were originally stationed on the island. This situation could only mean that there was a spirit vein on the island that was at least at the micro level. However, everyone searched the entire Huangli Island. They even searched the surrounding several kilometers of sea, but they still came up empty-handed. In the end, everyone directed their suspicions towards the only place that had not been searched, your Immortal's cave. The Li family's father and son even started a rumor that no wonder you didn't open a cave residence on Tianling Mountain. So it turns out that you have already found a place with good feng shui. When the 5 years were up, the father and son gathered Lin Shang, Li Cheng, and a few cultivators who were affiliated with their family to demand that your cave residence be taken back according to the sect's rules. Fortunately, Master Immortal Lu came to Huangli Island after you left, and is now one of the Master Immortals in charge of Huangli Island. He is also in the 9th layer of the Blood Condensation Realm, and is about to advance to the Core Forging Realm. With his protection, these people usually don't dare to go too far. Recently, Master Immortal Lu brought Yao Yong, Du Feng, and the other junior martial brothers to patrol the sea, but these people took the opportunity to break into your cave residence. Fortunately, you came back in time. Otherwise, senior martial brother Chen Lian and I wouldn't have been able to stop these 10 people. Lu Ping sneered and said, "A bunch of clowns." Then he stood up and led Hu Lili, Chen Lian, and Feng Tao through the living room to the fake cultivation room that Lu Ping had opened up. On the back wall of the cultivation room, there was a stone door with a few spirit sealing talismans that Lu Ping had made. Lu Ping waved his hand to remove the spirit sealing talismans, and a faint spiritual energy spread out. Lu Ping turned around and smiled at the 3 of them. He stretched out his hand and pushed the stone door open. Immediately, the sound of flowing water came from inside, and at the same time, a dense spiritual energy rushed out, making the 3 people behind Lu Ping exclaim in their hearts. The situation inside the mountain hadn't changed much. Only the spiritual grass garden that Lu Ping had opened up on the flat ground where the spring water had emerged from had grown verdant and lush. The 2 spirit gathering pearls that Lu Ping had buried in the spirit vein had completely fused with the spirit vein. Now Lu Ping's cave residents had gathered 4 miniature spirit veins. At this moment, Feng Tao had a dumbfounded expression. Chunlian also had a look of surprise and said, "It turns out that Junior Brother's place is really a different world." Only Hu Lily might have guessed it, but she didn't expect the spiritual energy inside to be so dense. This was definitely not the level that a miniature spirit vein could reach. Chapter 136. Lu Ping's return did not bring about any commotion on Huangli Island. However, it caused quite a commotion among the blood condensation cultivators on Jinling Island. 1 against 10, Lu Ping easily defeated Li Yu and the others. These people had long heard that Li Ziming and Lu Ping did not get along well. Now, however, they had completely fallen out. Then news spread that Lu Ping was attacked while scouting the pirates. The pirates personally admitted that they already knew about Lu Ping's whereabouts. At that time, only a small number of cultivators knew that Lu Ping had secretly gone to the sea. It just so happened that the one who came up with the idea and urged Lu Ping to go to the sea was none other than Li Ziming. This time, even if Li Ziming had a mouth, he would not be able to explain himself. Just as everyone was looking forward to the next development of the situation, Lu Ping was either going back and forth between the 3 shops or staying in his own cave mansion under the cliff at the center of Huangli Island. As for Li Yu and the others, they no longer showed themselves in public. Even when they were patrolling the island, they also took a leave of absence. Both sides had come to a mutual understanding. Lu Ping had been very busy these past few days. For the past few years, Hu Lily had been helping him manage the shop he opened in the market. Without the talismans and medicinal pills crafted by Lu Ping, the profits of the pill and talisman pavilion had dropped significantly. However, with Hu Lily's help, Feng Tao had been able to purchase a large number of items from Dikuan Island and sell them in the pill and talisman pavilion. After 5 years, they had earned tens of thousands of spirit stones. Naturally, Lu Ping did not care about this small amount of spirit stones. After giving half to Hu Lily, Feng Tao followed Lu Ping's instructions to purchase spiritual herbs that were 500 years old and above. After dealing with the matters of the pill and talisman pavilion, Lu Ping went to look around Hu Lily's shop. Then he went to Chanlian's artifact crafting shop. At present, Chanlian's artifact refinement skill could be said to be famous amongst the cultivators of Huangli Island. Chanlian's family had a long history of learning, and he was also a disciple of Jinling, a core forging stage artifact refinement master, Sage Enigma Flame. Absorbing the strong points of both sects, the quality of the high-grade and mid-grade magic artifacts refined by him was excellent. Thus, he was now the #1 artifact refinement master in the seas of Profound Flower Island and Profound Qi Island. When Lu Ping found Chunlian had just refined a high-grade defensive artifact, the Spirit Stale Stone. Seeing Lu Ping enter, he directly threw the Spirit Stale Stone to Lu Ping and said, "Take a look, how's the refining?" Lu Ping took a look. This Spirit Stale Stone was refined using the Spirit Stale Soil provided by Lu Ping. The entire stone was like a Rubik's Cube. Although it was only the size of a palm, when encountering an enemy, as long as one channeled their arcane energy into it, the Spirit Stale Stone would expand into a thick Spirit Stale wall, blocking all threatening attacks for the cultivator. Lu Ping carefully inspected the smelting temperature and the details of the formation engravings. He said, "Really good. I didn't expect you to be able to refine high-grade magic artifacts so easily." Chanlian smiled proudly and said, "This is a defensive magic artifact that Niu Dazhuang asked me to refine for him." Niu Dazhuang had just broken through to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Originally, using a high-grade magic artifact would be quite difficult for him. Unfortunately, he was forced into a corner by this fellow. This time, the Spirit Stale Soil you left for him has been used up. Lu Ping smiled indifferently and said, "It's fine. If there's nothing left, I'll just dig for more." "Oh right, how confident are you in refining a top-grade magic artifact?" Chunlian said, "You're talking about the landslide, right? You've had that second-grade deep-sea silver iron for quite some time now. With your strength, I'm afraid you can already use a top-grade magic artifact." Chunlian saw Lu Ping nodding and continued, "I'm still a little lacking in the ability to refine top-grade magic artifacts. I'm afraid I'll have to go back to Dikuan Island with you to look for my old Chan." Lu Ping smiled and said, "How would you know if you don't try? If there's something like this, how confident are you? As he said that, he took out the high-grade crafting furnace that he obtained from Failing Island from his storage ring. Chun Lian was a man who knew his stuff. The moment he saw the crafting furnace, his eyes lit up and he said, "Where did you get this antique from? The crafting technique is rather simple and mysterious. I'm afraid it has 4,000 to 5,000 years of history." Although the crafting technique is simple and crude, it's very impressive. It can maximize the power of the magic artifact, but it also shortens the lifespan of the magic artifact. However, if the spiritual materials used to refine the magic artifact are refined carefully, this flaw can be made up for. However, with my refining technique, it's still a little lacking. Lu Ping saw that Chun Lian had forgotten what he had told him earlier the moment he saw the crafting furnace. Lu Ping was rather impressed by Chun Lian's obsession, but he still interrupted him and said, "You can study the crafting furnace later. I'm asking you now, with this, it shouldn't be a problem for you to upgrade Landslide to a top-grade magic artifact, right?" Chun Lian finally got rid of the temptation of the crafting furnace and replied, "There's no problem, but I've never refined a top-grade magic artifact before. If I fail, don't look for me." Lu Ping said fiercely, "If you fail, I'll take this crafting furnace back." Hearing this, Chun Lian's face turned bitter. Lu Ping was amused. He took out 2 mid-grade inner armors and a complete crocodile skin from his storage ring. After thinking for a moment, he took out 2 long thorns that were each 3 feet long and passed them to Chun Lian. "Since that's the case, use them to practice. You should recognize these 2 inner armors. This time, upgrade them to high-grade magic artifacts. Use these 2 thorns to refine 2 high-grade flying needles for me." Chun Lian ignored Lu Ping's instructions and exclaimed, "Good stuff, good stuff. Is this the skin of a primordial giant crocodile? Looking at the color and toughness of the skin, could it be a late blood condensation realm primordial giant crocodile? Heavens, did you kill a primordial giant crocodile? This is a fierce beast among demonic beasts. Even a 9th layer blood condensation realm cultivator might not be able to defeat a 7th layer primordial giant crocodile." Without waiting for Lu Ping to explain, Chun Lian continued, "Isn't this the long thorns of a flying swordfish? This is an ideal material to refine flying needles. Swordfish demonic beasts usually travel in pairs in the ocean. Even a late blood condensation realm demonic beast wouldn't dare to provoke a pair of mid-blood condensation realm flying swordfish. Did you kill them too?" Lu Ping said helplessly, "It's just a coincidence. Do as you see fit." After saying that, Lu Ping ignored Chun Lian, who was still admiring the materials, and returned to his cave dwelling. There was still a furnace of pills that was almost done. After a long time, a flustered and exasperated voice came from Little Chen's crafting shop. "Cursing bastard, where are you? If you want to upgrade 2 mid-grade inner armors to high-grade, how is this alligator skin enough? You also need several kinds of high-grade spiritual materials. Could it be that the long beak of this flying swordfish can be directly refined into a flying needle? At least 5 high-grade spiritual materials are needed for that to work." This guy ran really fast. It's a pity that the little bit of property I've saved over the years will have to be spent again. Lu Ping, who ran back to his cave dwelling, naturally couldn't hear Chun Lian's complaints. After all, the primordial giant crocodile skin was used to upgrade 2 top-grade inner armors. Just the high-grade crafting furnace was already a top-grade magic tool. Chun Lian had definitely made a huge profit this time, so he didn't mind spending some spiritual materials. Lu Ping used the primordial giant crocodile's blood as the main ingredient, along with a dozen types of 500-year-old spiritual herbs. The barrier-breaking pill was specially concocted by Lu Ping for Lu Dagui to break through to the mid-blood condensation realm. Strictly speaking, although Lu Dagui and the primordial giant crocodile were both pure water elemental monsters, one of them had the turtle bloodline while the other had the Jiao bloodline. They weren't ideal complementary bloodlines. However, Lu Ping knew that they shared the same origin. Moreover, the primordial giant crocodile was a late blood condensation monster. It was already very rare for its blood to fuse with Lu Dagui's. The primordial giant crocodile's blood was enough for Lu Ping to concoct 7 or 8 furnaces of barrier-breaking pills. Lu Ping had spent more than half of the 500-year-old spiritual herbs he bought along the way. In total, he had obtained 5 bottles of barrier-breaking pills. His success rate was 70%. Lu Dagui was already close to reaching the peak of the third-layer blood condensation realm, so he fell asleep after eating 7 or 8 bottleneck-breaking pellets. By the time he woke up, Lu Ping would have another mid-blood condensation realm cultivator under his command. A month after Lu Ping returned, Master Immortal Lu returned from the sea. When Yao Yong and the rest heard that Lu Ping had returned safely, they were very excited. They all came to visit Lu Ping's cave abode. After seeing Lu Ping's cave abode, they were all envious of Lu Ping's good luck. As they chatted, they asked Lu Ping if he had any plans to become a disciple of a core forging realm enlightened master, since he had already reached the mid-blood condensation realm. Lu Ping hadn't thought about this before, but it was important. After reaching the mid-blood condensation realm, Zhenling sect's disciples would automatically become the sect's elite disciples. They would be able to study under the sect's core forging enlightened masters and receive greater help in their cultivation. They wouldn't have to take too many detours, and their future achievements would naturally be higher. Just like how Yao Yong became the disciple of enlightened master Chu Xuancheng and reached the 6th level blood condensation realm in 5 years. Chen Lian became the disciple of Sage Enigma Flame. Du Feng cultivated a metal-type cultivation technique. His master was enlightened master Xianfan, who cultivated the Gongjin military breaking kill technique. Du Feng was also at the 5th level blood condensation realm. Hu Lili became the disciple of a core forging realm enlightened master, who specialized in formations. Zhongjian's master was enlightened master Guo Xianshan, who was at the 5th level blood condensation realm. However, Lu Ping had no clue. Lu Ping had come into contact with a few core forging realm enlightened masters in the sect. The one he was most familiar with was undoubtedly enlightened master Zhang Xianlin. However, Lu Ping did not know if enlightened master Zhang's cultivation technique was compatible with his own. Moreover, enlightened master Zhang was currently preparing to break through to the Dharma manifestation realm. After everyone left, Lu Ping went to visit Master Immortal Lu. He briefly recounted what had happened in the past 5 years. When he mentioned that his whereabouts were exposed by a cultivator from his sect, Master Immortal Lu frowned. You did well. Although the Li family's father and son are the biggest suspects, the cultivators from the other sects were also heavily injured or killed by our sect's encirclement. The remaining cultivators have all returned to their sects, so there is no evidence left. The Li family and the Lin family have some influence in our sect. If there is no evidence, you can only blame yourself. Lu Ping understood. Master Immortal Lu looked at Lu Ping and said, I know you are a shrewd person. I'm afraid you will not let this matter rest. However, I still advise you to be careful. Jinling's rules are very strict. Colluding with the enemy is a grave crime. The small Li family is like an ant in Jinling. How would they dare to take such a risk and expose the identity and whereabouts of a cultivator from the sect? Lu Ping was taken aback. Master Immortal, are you saying that there is someone behind the Li family? Master Immortal Lu nodded. In the end, there is no evidence. Before Lu Ping left, Master Immortal Lu said, in 7 days, return to Tianling Mountain and prepare to become a disciple. Lu Ping asked who his disciple was, but Master Immortal Lu said he did not know. He had only received a notification from the sect. Chapter 137. After Lu Ping left Master Immortal Lu's place, he went straight to Chen Lian's smithy. When Chen Lian saw Lu Ping, he threw a few items at him and said, Here your things. Lu Ping took them and looked at them. First were 2 high-grade inner armors. The golden inner armors were shimmering with colorful formations, making them look even more luxurious. This was a high-grade mystic instrument made from the skin of the green sea snake and the primordial giant crocodile. Lu Ping loved it so much that he couldn't bear to part with it. Chen Lian said coldly, It's a waste for you to wear these 2 inner armors. What are you going to do with the other one? Lu Ping admired the 2 luxurious inner armors and said, Spare. Chen Lian rolled his eyes and said, Nonsense. Lu Ping didn't mind. He kept the 2 inner armors and took out the 2 high-grade flying needles to admire. Chen Lian said, I spent a lot of effort on these 2 sewing needles. The long spines of the swordfish of yours are only mid-grade spiritual materials. I added a few high-grade spiritual materials and used up all the things I've accumulated over the years to barely upgrade these 2 sewing needles to the standard of a high-grade magic tool. When Lu Ping heard Chen Lian talking about sewing needles, he felt a chill run down his spine. Did he have a fetish for using sewing needles? He quickly corrected, "What sewing needles? Have you ever seen a 3-inch long sewing needle? These are blood jade divine needles, understand? Blood jade divine needles." Chen Lian saw that Lu Ping was getting anxious and quickly said, Fine. Blood jade divine needles are blood jade divine needles. Aren't they just needles?" Seeing that Lu Ping was about to explode again, Chen Lian quickly said, "Mystic instrument, it's an instrument, not a needle." Seeing that Lu Ping's expression had improved, Chen Lian said again, "Flying needles are a rather difficult type to forge among the same grade mystic instruments. Seeing that I've given you so many things, you should at least give me something in return, right?" Lu Ping said, "Sure, what do you want?" Chen Lian was overjoyed and said, 100 caddies of refined spirit ash soil will do." Lu Ping pretended to think for a moment and said, "Sure, but recently I have made some progress in alchemy, and I am somewhat dissatisfied with the mid-grade alchemy furnace in my hands. I see that this crafting furnace is not bad, and after some modification, it should be barely enough for alchemy." Chen Lian jumped up upon hearing that. With a pained expression, he pointed at Lu Ping's nose and said, "What? Transform it into an alchemy furnace? What kind of joke is this? You're simply wasting natural resources. Forget it, I don't want the spirit ash soil anymore. I'm just unlucky to have met a bad friend like you. No matter what, don't even think about taking the crafting furnace away. Unless you don't want to upgrade your landslide to a top-grade artifact." Seeing that he had finally gained the upper hand in his joke, Lu Ping cheerfully left Little Chen's crafting shop, leaving Chen Lian to beat his chest and stamp his feet, cursing himself for being careless and making friends. Lu Ping arrived at Hu Lily's residence and returned the inner armor that had been upgraded to a high-grade artifact. He said, "How is it, do you like it? Chen Lian's craftsmanship is quite good." Hu Lily blushed, but still graciously accepted the inner armor. She said, "Chen Lian is the best craftsman in the sea region after all. The quality of the artifacts he refines is naturally guaranteed. What are your plans when you return to Tianling Mountain in 7 days to acknowledge a master?" Lu Ping said indifferently, "I don't even know who my master is, so what plans can I have?" Hu Lily was slightly disappointed upon hearing that, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. She then reminded him, when acknowledging a master, the disciple has to present a gift. "Have you prepared it?" Lu Ping was curious. He asked, "Is there such a thing? I didn't know about it, tell me about it." Hu Lily looked at Lu Ping helplessly, then told him about the custom of Jinling apprenticeship. It turned out that when a Jinling apprentice reached the mid-blood condensation realm and met the requirements to acknowledge a master, there were usually 3 ways to do so. The first way was if the apprentice had outstanding performance and had already caught the attention of a core forging enlightened master. Under such circumstances, the apprentice would naturally be heavily nurtured by the enlightened master, just like Yao Yong when he was only at the first layer of the blood condensation realm. The second way was if the apprentice had connections with the apprentice, just like Shi Lingling, whose family had a deep background and had already contacted a suitable master for her in advance. The third way was the method most cultivators used. The enlightened masters who were preparing to accept apprentices would set up various kinds of tests on Tianling Mountain, and any disciple who passed the tests would be able to become an apprentice under the enlightened master who set up the tests. Hu Lily, Du Feng, and the others had passed the tests set up by their respective masters before they became apprentices. Hu Lily originally thought that with Lu Ping's outstanding performance, he would have already caught the attention of a core forging enlightened master. She didn't expect Lu Ping to be the same as her, choosing the most common third way. The third way was usually difficult for the apprentice to gain the attention of the master at the beginning, and the amount of guidance they received would naturally be very little. However, Hu Lily believed in Lu Ping's strength and believed that with Lu Ping's performance, he would sooner or later gain the attention of the master. Lu Ping didn't take this to heart. His cultivation technique was no longer the Lin High Wave listening technique of Jinling, but the more mysterious and tyrannical North Sea Wave listening technique. He was probably the only person in Jinling who cultivated this technique. Even if he became an apprentice, he wouldn't get much help. After the apprenticeship ceremony, according to tradition, the apprentice had to present a gift. However, this was just a formality. A core forging enlightened master had seen all kinds of treasures, so why would he care about the apprentice's gift? However, this was ultimately a matter of face. The more precious and unique the gift, the more face the enlightened master would gain in front of the other enlightened masters, and the more important the apprentice would be to the master. 7 days later, it was time for Jinling's annual disciple recruitment ceremony. During this year, the new blood condensation cultivators in Jinling, as well as cultivators like Lu Ping who missed the previous disciple recruitment ceremony, returned to Tianling Mountain to participate in the disciple recruitment ceremony. Lu Ping reported his name to a core forging enlightened master, who was in charge of this event. The enlightened master asked with interest, "You are Lu Ping?" Lu Ping didn't know how a mere blood condensation cultivator like him could be recognized by a core forging enlightened master. He could only reply in fear and trepidation, "Yes, I am." The enlightened master smiled and said, "You don't have to participate in the sex examination. Wait in the side hall." Lu Ping didn't understand the enlightened master's intention, so he followed the servant to the side hall of the Tianling Hall and waited there. Behind him, the blood condensation cultivators who were waiting to register revealed looks of envy. Some of them even muttered sourly, "Another lucky bastard." When Lu Ping arrived at the side hall, there were already a few blood condensation cultivators waiting there. Clearly, they had received special treatment just like Lu Ping. After a while, a young girl in palace attire walked into the side hall, causing a commotion among the waiting cultivators. Clearly, this gorgeous young girl was still very powerful. The young girl asked with a charming voice, "Who is Lu Ping?" Puzzled, Lu Ping stood up and said, "Yes, I am." The young girl giggled, and everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Even the light in the side hall suddenly became brighter. The young girl ignored everyone else in the side hall and said, "Come with me." After saying that, she turned around and walked away. Lu Ping had no choice but to follow her, using his back to block the sharp gazes of the crowd. Lu Ping followed the young girl past the side hall and towards the top of the mountain. When they were about to reach the top, the young girl suddenly turned around and led Lu Ping into a forest at the side. Lu Ping didn't mind and followed the young girl into the forest. The young girl stopped at an empty space in the forest. Lu Ping also stopped behind her. The young girl turned her head and said, "If you want to become my mother's disciple, you have to pass through me first. Don't think that just because Daddy spoke up for you, you won't have to go through the test." Lu Ping was stunned. He asked, "Senior Martial Sister, may I ask which two enlightened masters are your parents' Dao partners?" The young girl was confused. You actually don't know? Forget it, you have to pass through me first." After saying that, the two ribbons on the young girl's palace dress suddenly flew out. Like two water snakes slithering through the water, they drew beautiful but hard-to-catch trajectories as they flew towards Lu Ping. These two ribbons were actually high-grade magic artifacts. The moment the young girl made her move, Lu Ping noticed that her body was covered in layers of indistinct green energy. This young girl, who was even younger than him, was actually a late blood condensation expert. Lu Ping saw the two ribbons flying towards him. The ribbons kept changing their trajectories, trying to conceal their attack. However, the ribbons kept changing their trajectories naturally. This was a special rhythm that only those who had reached the Force realm would have. Without any hesitation, Lu Ping took out his soaring wing swords. He didn't bother guessing where the ribbons were going to attack. Instead, he crossed his swords in front and behind him. Each of his swords emitted 49 sword rays, forming a surging current that rushed towards the two ribbons. The ribbons flipped like two water snakes that wanted to go against the current. However, before one of the torrents could stop, the other torrent had already pushed the previous wave and pounced over, directly smashing the two ribbons into the sword wave. The young girl didn't expect Lu Ping's attack to be so brutal and powerful. Even though she was a late blood condensation expert, she was still at a disadvantage. She couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. After all, the young girl wasn't an ordinary cultivator. Seeing that she was at a disadvantage right from the start, she raised her hand and another high-grade flying sword flew towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't want to reveal too much of his strength. Furthermore, the young girl only had the intention of sparring with him. There wasn't any hostility in her moves, so he took out his goose feather dual blades. The two mid-grade mystic artifacts took turns to block the high-grade flying sword in the air. When the young girl saw that Lu Ping was able to block her attack with a 5th-layer blood condensation cultivation, she wanted to fight with Lu Ping. However, she seemed to have thought of something and suddenly retracted the mystic artifact that was attacking Lu Ping. While Lu Ping was still in a daze, the young girl had already flown out of the forest and flew along the east side of the mountain peak. She left behind a tinkling laughter and said, "The apprenticeship ceremony will be held in 3 days. You must prepare a gift for me, okay? I can make half of the decisions. If the gift is not satisfactory and you embarrass me in front of others, I will ask my mother to accept you as her in-name disciple." Chapter 138. Lu Ping returned to the side hall with a stomach full of doubts. At this time there was no one in the side hall. After asking a cleaning boy, he found out that the disciples who were preparing to be apprenticed to a master had already accepted the test of a core forging enlightened master in the front hall's square. Everyone in the side hall had gone to the square to watch. Naturally, Lu Ping was also curious. He quickly went to the square to see the questions that the core forging enlightened master had set for everyone. These questions could be said to be strange. Some required the disciple to memorize a spell within a certain period of time. Some required the disciple to write an essay according to the question. Some were more straightforward and ordered the disciple to fight first. The winner would naturally be apprenticed to the teacher. Some were even stranger. They actually asked the disciple to take a fishing rod and go fishing in the stream of Tianling Mountain. In short, there were all kinds of strange tests. It was an eye-opener for Lu Ping and he clicked his tongue in wonder. Of course, there were more professional tests. For example, those who wanted to be apprenticed to the pill concoction pavilion not only had to report their name, age, place of origin, cultivation level, master, etc., but they also had to refine a specific type of medicinal pill and achieve a certain success rate. Other places like the refining hall and the talisman crafting pavilion also had a strict assessment system. Lu Ping lost interest after looking for a while. However, the girl in the palace dress repeatedly emphasized the ceremony of apprenticing to a master made Lu Ping's mind turn. However, Lu Ping also couldn't guess which enlightened master wanted to accept him as a disciple. Moreover, it was a female enlightened master. Originally, the apprenticing ceremony was just a formality. However, people always had the heart to compare. Moreover, it was his future master's daughter who had repeatedly asked him to do so. Lu Ping had no choice but to take it seriously. Lu Ping thought for a long time but couldn't think of anything on him that could make a core forging enlightened master's eyes light up. If he really couldn't do it, he could use spirit stones or offer a few high-grade or even top-grade magic tools. He didn't lack these things. However, when he thought about it again, he felt like a nouveau riche after all. He was afraid that being covered in the stench of money would make his master unhappy. Even if he took out 3 to 5 top-grade magic tools, he was afraid that she would not care. It wasn't that he didn't have things that could attract the attention of perfected persons, such as the azure spiritual fire. However, that was only possible if Lu Ping was retarded. Speaking of the indigo spiritual fire, Lu Ping's eyes lit up. He could make a big deal out of the indigo spiritual fire. Now that he was an alchemist, no one would complain about having too many indigo spiritual fire. Even if his master couldn't use the indigo spiritual fire, she should have some juniors under her tutelage. If he gave the indigo spiritual fire to them, not only would his master gain face, but he would also be able to get along well with his senior brothers and sisters in the future. After making up his mind, Lu Ping returned to the temporary cultivation room that he had arranged for himself. After sealing the cultivation room and forming a restriction around it, Lu Ping took out the mid-grade alchemy furnace. At the same time, he also took out the blue spirit flame that was burning on the spirit gathering plate. Fortunately, he had been concocting the barrier-breaking pill. The primordial giant crocodile's blood was the main ingredient, so he saved a lot of spiritual herbs. Lu Ping secretly thought about which kinds of pills he should concoct. Suddenly, he remembered that when he killed Yuan Shikong from the overturning sea gang, he obtained a Wondergate pills recipe from his storage pouch. Lu Ping held the recipe in his hand. This recipe recorded a pill that sounded quite mystical, the face-retaining pill. In fact, this pill wasn't as mystical as it seemed. Just one pill could make one's appearance forever youthful. In this world, there would never be a pill whose medicinal efficacy would never fade. Otherwise, the elixir of immortality would also exist. Why would the friar need to cultivate so hard? The so-called face-retaining pill was a pill that could maintain one's appearance for several years or even decades. Once this period was over, the medicinal efficacy would fade. Unless one continued to consume the face-retaining pill, one's appearance would still age. The face-retaining pill was a kind of wondergate pill that was in between the late blood condensation realm and the core forging realm. After reaching a certain level in the mid-blood condensation realm, Lu Ping had also tried to concoct a late blood condensation realm pill. However, the face-retaining pill required 5 stalks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. This undoubtedly increased the difficulty of concocting. Lu Ping was lucky enough to collect these 5 kinds of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs on Feiling Island. In addition, there were also a few stalks of Qianzhong millet magic tool. With the addition of more than 2,500-year-old spiritual herbs, Lu Ping managed to gather enough for 5 cauldrons of pills. However, there were still 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the cauldron. This was something that an alchemy master would only use when concocting core forging realm pills. Although most of the spiritual herbs were still 500-year-old, to be able to concoct this kind of pill, one would at least be in between an alchemy master and an alchemy master. Lu Ping pondered for a while and finally made up his mind. Open the cauldron. This was an unprecedented challenge for Lu Ping. If he succeeded, Lu Ping's alchemy skills would usher in a leap forward. Lu Ping spent a full 2 hours to calm his excited heart. Then, he thought about the process recorded in the pill recipe. Following the order in the recipe, he lit the fire, warmed the cauldron, opened the lid, and placed the herbs in. After a long period of work, the medicinal properties of the various spiritual herbs in the cauldron finally began to fuse. This was a long process, but Lu Ping did not dare to relax. He used his divine sense to pay attention to every change in the cauldron. When the fire reached a certain point, Lu Ping formed 27 hand seals in a row. Each hand seal was accompanied by a vast amount of arcane energy that was sent into the cauldron. By the time the set of complicated hand seals was completed, it took Lu Ping an hour. Lu Ping felt that it was even more tiring than fighting a late blood condensation cultivator with the Qing Han sword. Lu Ping sat beside the cauldron and quickly recovered the arcane energy in his body. After another 2 hours, the medicinal liquid in the cauldron was finally fused. However, through his divine sense, Lu Ping found that a portion of the medicinal liquid was wasted. Lu Ping pulled himself together and began to form the hand seals. This set of hand seals was even more complicated. There were a total of 36 hand seals. There could not be a single repetition or mistake. By the time Lu Ping managed to form the hand seals, even with Lu Ping's profound arcane energy, his forehead was covered in sweat and he was gasping for breath. Even though Lu Ping tried his best to cooperate with him, it was his first time using the hand seals. Under the circumstances where he was not familiar with the hand seals, a portion of the solidified medicinal liquid still turned into black ash. Lu Ping did not have the time to regret it. He formed the 9 hand seals one by one. Each hand seal was executed with all of Lu Ping's arcane energy. The cauldron shook violently. When the 9 hand seals were completed, the lid of the cauldron opened with a boom. 2 grape-sized medicinal pills with a jade-like appearance jumped out of the cauldron. The 2 pills seemed to have a mind of their own. They made a half-turn in the air, as if they were trying to avoid being caught by Lu Ping. However, when they were halfway through their turn, they suddenly lost their momentum and fell to the ground. Half-step spirit transformation. It really is a wondergate pill between a blood condensation pill and a core forging pill. It actually has a trace of spirituality. Unfortunately, it doesn't have enough spirituality, so it dissipated the moment it flew out of the cauldron. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and 2 white jade-like medicinal pellets flew into the jade crystal bottle in his hand as if they were attracted by something. Lu Ping was very satisfied with his success in concocting 2 face-halting pellets on his first try. After a night's rest, Lu Ping, who already had the experience of concocting the face-halting pellets, was much more familiar with the process. But this time he only managed to concoct 2 face-halting pellets. Lu Ping continued to work hard. On the 3rd day, Lu Ping was completely familiar with the refining process and increased the number of pills to 3. On the fourth day it was still 3. On the fifth day, Lu Ping's success rate finally reached 40%. At this time, Lu Ping was a big step closer to becoming an alchemy grandmaster. There was a total of 14 face-halting pills. Each face-halting pill could keep one's face for 30 years. Lu Ping used a jade bottle to store tin as a gift for his master. After thinking for a while, Lu Ping decided to be more careful. He also refined a supplementary pill that was recorded in the face-halting pills recipe. This pill was called the fragrance of multitude pill. To put it bluntly, it was a kind of fragrance that lasted for a long time. Unlike the fragrance used to perfume clothes, after this pill was consumed, the fragrance would emanate from the person's skin and last for 3 years. Of course, the fragrance of multitude pill could also be chosen. Different fragrance of multitude pills had different fragrance, and cultivators could choose according to their preferences. This kind of fragrance of multitude pill was just a novelty. It was not difficult to refine. It was only equivalent to the difficulty of refining a late blood refining pill. Lu Ping casually traded a few 500-year-old spiritual herbs outside, and obtained 7 to 8 batches of 100-year-old spiritual herbs to refine the fragrance of multitude pill. Lu Ping concocted all of them in one go. Now Lu Ping's late blood refining pills were showing signs of surpassing pills. In other words, not only did he concoct a full batch of 10 pills, but because there was almost no waste of medicinal efficacy during the concoction process, he even managed to concoct 11 to 12 pills. Lu Ping put the dozens of fragrance of multitude pills into the jade bottle, and waited quietly for the arrival of the apprenticeship ceremony the next day. In the past few days, Lu Ping also came out to communicate with other cultivators during his breaks in the concoction process. Those who passed the apprenticeship test naturally knew who their master was. Every enlightened master's test was different, and it also showed their identity. There was no need to mention those who managed to become apprentices through various connections. As for those disciples who were favored by the enlightened master, before accepting them, they would also seek their opinions in advance to see if they agreed or not. Of course, there was almost no one who disagreed. Lu Ping was the only one who still didn't know who he was going to be apprenticed to. There were also some disciples who suspected that Lu Ping had already been eliminated, so they lied and refused to leave, waiting for an opportunity. However, the enlightened master in charge of the application process personally told Lu Ping to wait in the side hall. That was the treatment that the enlightened master would receive if he had already been selected as a disciple by the enlightened master. This matter was also seen by many people. Lu Ping couldn't figure out which enlightened master would have the leisure to joke with him like this. Lu Ping wanted to ask the enlightened master in charge of the Heaven Spirit Hall, but he was told by the welcoming boy that the enlightened master would be away for a few days. As Lu Ping waited helplessly, Jinling's apprenticeship ceremony that was held once every 3 years finally began. Chapter 139. In this year's Jinling apprenticeship ceremony, there were a total of 14 enlightened masters who decided to accept disciples. However, there were more than 50 people who came to be apprenticed. Some of the enlightened masters found that there was no suitable disciple for them, so they left early and waited for the next apprenticeship ceremony. In addition to those who were eliminated, only 37 people obtained the qualifications to be apprenticed. The apprenticeship ceremony was held in the square in front of the Heaven Spirit Hall. Early in the morning, Lu Ping followed the disciples to the square with a feeling of unease. At this time, there were already many Jinling disciples gathered around the square to watch the ceremony. When the time was almost up, the core forging enlightened master who received Lu Ping and the others to register a few days ago slowly walked out of the Heaven Spirit Hall. It seemed that this enlightened master had come to the Heaven Spirit Hall after enlightened master Xianyuan left the Heaven Spirit Hall to take over the Jinling side hall. The enlightened master commanded a few cleaning boys to move out 14 exquisite grand armchairs from the Heaven Spirit Hall and place them in front of the Heaven Spirit Hall's entrance. The entrance of the Heaven Spirit Hall was spacious enough, and the 14 grand armchairs were placed far apart from each other. Lu Ping saw that there was a clear difference in the arrangement of the 14 grand armchairs. There were a total of 8 grand armchairs at the outermost ends of the hall, and 4 red grand armchairs were placed on each side. In the middle of the 4 red grand armchairs were 2 yellow grand armchairs, and the 2 purple grand armchairs in the middle were the most conspicuous. The Jinling disciples who came to watch the ceremony immediately began to discuss among themselves. Lu Ping knew that there must be people who understood the mystery of the arrangement of the chairs, so he carefully listened to the discussions. I didn't expect that there would be late core forging enlightened masters accepting disciples this time, and there are 2 of them at once. Yes, according to the sect's custom, late core forging enlightened masters do not accept disciples. But it is only a custom, there are no such rules. That's right, I've heard of late core forging enlightened masters accepting disciples in the past, but this is the first time I've seen it. There are also 4 mid-core enlightened masters. It seems that this apprenticeship ceremony is quite grand. After listening to everyone's discussion, Lu Ping understood that the tricolored armchair symbolized Jinling's early stage, mid-stage and late-stage core forging realm. However, it seemed that the appearance of 2 late-stage core forging realm masters had surprised everyone. Lu Ping didn't know who these 2 late-stage core forging realm masters were, and who was the lucky person who had obtained the favor of these 2 masters. At this moment, the ushering boy seemed to have suddenly received an order. He loudly sang, "The apprenticeship ceremony is about to begin. Everyone silence." Lu Ping heard someone mumbling behind him. "What time is it? Why did the ceremony suddenly start?" Another person said in a low voice, "What time? When the spiritual masters arrive, the ceremony will begin. The first spiritual master to arrive will be the beginning of the ceremony." The previous voice asked curiously, "If the real people only arrive in the afternoon, what should we do? Wait the whole morning?" Lu Ping rolled his eyes. This was the privilege of a core forging Taoist master. As soon as Lu Ping finished lamenting, he heard the ushering boy shout, "Yuzhong Prefecture's spiritual master Xianxing has arrived." As soon as he finished speaking, a middle-aged man who looked like an idler suddenly squeezed out from behind the crowd of cultivators. He raised his head and saw the spiritual master on duty at the entrance of the ceremony. He loudly laughed and said, "Damn, I didn't think that Xianxing would arrive first today. Senior Marshal Brother Xuanmiao, you are early." Spiritual Master Xuanmiao, who was on duty, nodded at him and smiled. Junior Marshal Brother is indeed early. Spiritual Master Xianxing casually sat on one of the red armchairs on the outside. He then closed his eyes as if he had fallen asleep. After a moment, the ushering boy shouted again, "Three Mysteries Mansion Spiritual Master Xuanzi has arrived." As soon as the ushering boy finished speaking, a golden light descended from the sky. Afterward, a cultivator wearing Taoist robes stood in front of the hall. Spiritual Master Xuanzi slightly nodded at Spiritual Master Xuanmiao. Spiritual Master Xianxing was still sleepy. Spiritual Master Xuanzi didn't mind and sat down next to Spiritual Master Xuanmiao. When the third spiritual master arrived, it was already 2 hours later. However, 4 more spiritual masters arrived one after another. The 4 spiritual masters arrived in different ways. They occupied 7 of the 8 red armchairs on both sides of the hall. 2 of them were women. As everyone waited for the 8th early core forging spiritual master, Spiritual Master Xuanmiao, who had been standing at the entrance of the Heaven Spirit Hall, walked over to the only empty red armchair and sat down. The ushering boy was surprised and said, "Fifth Yuanfu, Spiritual Master Xuanmiao, please be seated." As soon as the boy finished speaking, there was a distant bird cry in the sky. A bird twice the size of Lu Qin flew toward the Heaven Spirit Hall with a person on its back. At the same time, there was a dark cloud beside the bird. There was also a person standing on top of it. The 2 of them seemed to be chatting as they flew toward the Heaven Spirit Hall. The ushering boy shouted, "Spiritual Master Nie Xianjing of Golden Rock Mansion and Spiritual Master Xuanhui of Mountain Dock Mansion have arrived." This time, the 8 early core forging spiritual masters who were sitting on the red armchairs all stood up and bowed. "Greetings, Senior Xianjing. Greetings, Senior Xuanhui." Everyone greeted each other, creating a moment of chaos. The 2 mid-core forging spiritual masters did not mind and only greeted everyone with a smile. They each chose a yellow armchair and sat down. After a while, another 2 mid-core forging enlightened masters arrived one after the other. One of them was also a woman, and the enlightened masters exchanged pleasantries with each other. Lu Ping was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. The enlightened masters acted as if there was no one else around them, and they chatted and laughed as if nothing was going on. The spectating cultivators and Lu Ping, who were waiting to be apprenticed, could only stare blankly. At this moment, the boy called out, "Spiritual Master Xianin of the Spirit Ritual Manor has arrived." As soon as the boy's voice faded, the core forging spiritual masters who were chatting fell silent. The other spiritual masters all looked at Spiritual Master Xuanmiao, who was on duty outside the Heaven Spirit Hall. Spiritual Master Xuanmiao only acted according to the rules and did not know anything else. Just as everyone was looking forward to how Spiritual Master Xianin would appear, a short middle-aged man with a blurry face sat on one of the two purple armchairs in the middle of the hall. He looked so ordinary that it was difficult to notice him. Just as the cultivators watching the ceremony looked at each other, wondering how this person had appeared, the 12 enlightened masters all stood up and respectfully said to the middle-aged man on the purple chair, "Greetings, Senior Martial Brother Xianin." The middle-aged man was quite arrogant and didn't move from his seat. He only nodded his head and said, "N." Then he didn't say anything else. The 12 spiritual masters clearly knew this person's temperament. After greeting each other, they all took their seats. Although they still conversed with each other, they didn't chat as casually as before. It was clearly because of this spiritual master Xianin. Lu Ping thought that this spiritual master Xianin had quite a strong aura. However, when Lu Ping used his spiritual sense to investigate, he couldn't find any aura from this spiritual master Xianin. Although he was sitting there, it was as if he didn't exist. Instead, the spiritual master Xianin seemed to be aware of Lu Ping's secret spying. His tightly closed eyes suddenly opened slightly in Lu Ping's direction before closing them again. Lu Ping immediately felt a sharp gaze shooting towards him like a sharp blade. This gaze contained a fierce killing intent, but it didn't erupt. Even so, Lu Ping felt that he was suffocating from this imposing aura. The killing intent was like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Although it was restrained, it was like a fireball that could explode at any time. It hung in Lu Ping's heart, causing his mind to be in chaos. Lu Ping was startled. Fortunately, he had experienced life and death several times. The North Sea Wave listening art was a top-notch cultivation method. As he circulated his magic power, his powerful heartbeat was like a wake-up call. It freed Lu Ping from the spiritual master Xuanin's gaze. However, his body was already covered in a cold sweat. The 4 core forging stage spiritual masters sitting on the yellow chairs seemed to have sensed something. They suspiciously looked at the spiritual master Xianin. The 8 core forging stage spiritual masters didn't seem to sense anything. The spiritual master Xianin still had a bleak expression, as if nothing had happened. At this time there was only one purple chair left. Naturally, it caused everyone to speculate. Although Lu Ping was also curious, he was obviously more concerned about who his teacher was. At this time there were 3 female core forging stage spiritual masters. However, Lu Ping didn't know any of them. Even their names were only known through the welcoming boy. Just as Lu Ping was secretly observing the 3 female spiritual masters, the welcoming boy suddenly shouted, "Heavy Flower Mansion spiritual master Xianin has arrived." The cultivators in the square suddenly fell silent. They all wanted to see what kind of person this late core forging stage spiritual master was. Lu Ping was stunned. Others might not know who spiritual master Xianin was, but Lu Ping had seen him before. The spiritual master who led the Jinling team to Feiling Island was spiritual master Lu Xianin and spiritual master Guo Xianshan. Spiritual master Lu Xianin had left a deep impression on Lu Ping. He was an existence that could rival Xianling sect's spiritual master Feng Shudao. Who was Feng Shudao? He was a genius of Xianling sect. He was the Xianling sect's most likely expert to enter the Dharma phase. Together with Jinling sect's spiritual master Zhang Xianlin, they were known as the North Sea Twins. This showed spiritual master Lu Xuanin's status. As expected, when the 12 early and mid-stage core forging stage spiritual masters heard spiritual master Lu Xuanling's arrival, not only did the 12 early and mid-stage core forging stage spiritual masters stand up to welcome him, even spiritual master Xianin, who had been sitting motionlessly in his chair, straightened his back and slowly stood up. A long red ribbon flew across the sky. One end of it landed in front of the Heaven Spirit Hall, and the other end was so long that it disappeared into the horizon. Just as everyone was puzzled, they saw a beautiful woman in her 30s standing on the bridge formed by the red ribbon. When everyone looked again, she was already slowly descending toward the Heaven Spirit Hall. Lu Ping looked over. This elegant and beautiful woman was Spiritual Master Lu Xianling, whom he had met before. At this moment, she was greeting the core forging stage spiritual masters in front of the hall. The spiritual masters greeted her in a chaotic manner. Some greeted her, "Greetings, Martial Aunt." Some said, "Greetings, Martial Aunt." The four mid-stage core forging stage spiritual masters all addressed Spiritual Master Lu Xianling as Senior Sister. The strangest thing was that Spiritual Master Xiansheng, who arrived first, actually stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Mistress." Spiritual Master Lu Xianling did not say anything about Spiritual Master Xuanqing's greeting. She walked straight to the purple chair. The spiritual masters were not surprised by this. Spiritual Master Xiansheng did not feel awkward and returned to his seat after bowing. Spiritual Master Lu Xianling smiled at Spiritual Master Xianin, who was standing beside her. "I didn't expect junior brother Xianin to come as well. This makes Senior Sister happy." Chapter 140. Greetings, Senior Martial Sister Lu. Taoist Mysterious Yin was expressionless as usual. Taoist Mysterious Yin smiled and nodded. He turned around and sat on two purple chairs with Taoist Mysterious Yin. The 8 early-stage core forging enlightened masters waited for the 4 mid-stage core forging enlightened masters to take their seats. When the servant boy saw that the 14 core forging realm enlightened masters had arrived, he retreated. A late blood condensation realm middle-aged scholar who had been following behind Taoist Profound Miao stepped forward and announced loudly, "The apprenticeship ceremony will now begin. All apprenticeship disciples, come forward and offer incense to the ancestor." Lu Ping followed the disciples to Tianling Palace. There, he offered incense sticks and kowtowed to the Zhenling sect's core forging enlightened masters, hoping that they would protect Zhenling sect for a long time to come and protect the disciples to achieve success. The entire ceremony was solemn and respectful. Even Lu Ping didn't dare to overstep his boundaries. After bowing to the ancestors, the middle-aged scholar said, "Disciples, come forward and bow to your teacher." Lu Ping saw the disciples who were called to come forward and respectfully bow to their teacher. Lu Ping was dumbfounded. He still didn't know which enlightened master his teacher was. After being called, he didn't even know which enlightened master he should bow to. Just when Lu Ping was at a loss of what to do, the middle-aged scholar announced his name, Lu Ping of Huangli Island, former Group 7 disciple of Zhenling Side Hall. "Come forward and bow to your teacher." Lu Ping panicked. He hesitated whether he should explain the situation in front of everyone. If he did so, wouldn't it mean that his unknown teacher forcefully accepted him as a disciple without his consent? If that happened, wouldn't his unknown teacher lose face in front of all the enlightened masters? Even if he became her disciple again, he would still be disliked by her. Lu Ping's hesitation caused him to slow down. The middle-aged scholar who presided over the ceremony felt sorry for his disciple for being so rude. He shouted again, "Huangli Island's Lu Ping, step forward and greet your teacher." This time, not only was Lu Ping sweating profusely, the disciples also looked at each other. Lu Ping was about to brace himself and explain the situation, but he noticed that only enlightened Master Lu Xianling and enlightened Master Profound Miao were smiling at him. The other enlightened masters didn't know who Lu Ping was, and only looked at the disciples who were preparing to become Lu Ping's disciple. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. Although he didn't know who his teacher was, it was obvious that his teacher knew who he was. Otherwise, he wouldn't have specially asked to accept him as a disciple. However, other than enlightened Master Lu Xianling and enlightened Master Profound Miao, the other enlightened masters obviously didn't know who Lu Ping was. Therefore, his teacher could only be enlightened Master Lu Xianling or enlightened Master Profound Miao. The girl who came to find him that day clearly told him that it was her mother who wanted to accept Lu Ping as a disciple. Therefore, his teacher must be a female enlightened master, so it could only be enlightened Master Lu Xianling. The more Lu Ping thought about it, the more he felt that it was reasonable. The girl that day was also wearing a palace dress, and enlightened Master Lu Xianling was also wearing a palace dress today. Lu Ping recalled the girl's appearance that day and realized that there were many similarities between her and enlightened Master Lu Xianling. Just when the middle-aged scholar was about to shout Lu Ping's name again, A young man in his 20s suddenly walked out from the group of disciples. Under everyone's gaze, he walked up to enlightened Master Lu Xianling, who obviously had the highest status. He bowed deeply and said, "Disciple Lu Ping greets Master. I wish Master's cultivation to improve and live a long life." When Lu Ping bowed, his impulsive mood instantly calmed down. Then cold sweat immediately dripped down his forehead. His previous guess was just an inference and there was no evidence. If he made a wrong judgment, not only would the real master lose face, but Lu Ping might also be punished for the crime of deceiving his master. Just when Lu Ping was letting his imagination run wild, a gentle voice sounded, and immediately made Lu Ping feel as if he had been pardoned. "There's no need to be so polite, please get up first." Lu Ping stood up and saw enlightened Master Lu Xianling looking at him with a smile on his face. He quickly turned around and returned to the group of disciples. In the end, his gamble paid off. Lu Ping heaved a long sigh of relief. He was too impulsive at the start, and this time he had unintentionally taken a trip to the gates of hell. A light breeze blew past, and Lu Ping realized that his back was already soaked in sweat. Although all of them had become the disciple of an enlightened master, there were still differences between them. Most of them could only become a core forging enlightened master's in-name disciple after passing the test. If they performed well in the future, they would naturally be promoted to an official disciple. There were also some who became an official disciple the moment they entered the sect, becoming the envy of others. Thinking about it, Junling had heard that there were close to 10,000 mid and late blood condensation cultivators, but there were less than 100 core forging enlightened masters. If every mid and late blood condensation cultivator had a core forging enlightened master as an official disciple, then each enlightened master would have close to 100 disciples. Therefore, it was inevitable for them to adopt the in-name disciple method. Lu Ping didn't know whether he was an in-name disciple or an official disciple. After everyone was done with the ceremony, there was only one last event left. It was also the event that everyone was talking about the most: the ceremony of accepting a master. As expected, when the middle-aged scholar saw that everyone had greeted their master, he shouted, "The last event of the ceremony is for all disciples to present their gifts." In fact, when Junling held the ceremony in front of the Heaven Spirit Mountain's cultivators, her original intention was to encourage the disciples to take risks and improve themselves. After all, everyone had to put in a lot of effort to present their gifts in front of everyone. They couldn't let others look down on them. However, for some reason, the core forging enlightened master's reputation was also involved in the ceremony, which made things a little more complicated. This time, the middle-aged scholar didn't read out the disciples' names according to the name list. Instead, he decided on the order of the disciples' gifts according to the status of the enlightened masters present. Enlightened Master Xuanqing's disciple Luo Zihuan presents his gifts. Because this enlightened Master Xianxing had just called his master, Lu Xianling, mistress, Lu Ping paid close attention to him. A fourth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator, about the same age as Lu Ping, walked up to enlightened Master Xianxing. He scratched his disheveled hair and took out a jade crystal box from the storage bag at his waist. He said, "This disciple doesn't have much ability. I found a cultivator's ruin in the slow surge sea and obtained 9,000-year-old spiritual herbs. I'm here to present them to you, Master." Enlightened Master Xianxing took the jade box and nodded with a smile. 9,000-year-old spiritual herbs is very good. 9,000-year-old spiritual herbs was not a small number. On Failing Island, Lu Ping and the others often fought over a single 1,000-year-old spiritual herb. Sure enough, many of the cultivators who were watching the ceremony cheered. At the same time, sparse applause sounded. When Luo Zihuan heard spiritual master Xuanqing's praise and heard the cheers from the audience, he smiled foolishly and stood to the right of spiritual master Xianxing. Lu Ping thought about his 5 cauldrons of face-halting pellets. He used 25 spirit herbs that were nearly 1,000 years old, which was enough to concoct a cauldron of ordinary early core forging realm medicinal pellets. In addition, he used 150 spirit herbs that were 500 years old. Although the success rate was low and he wasted a lot of them, they were still medicinal pellets. Plus, with his identity as an alchemist, the value of the medicinal pellets was far higher than the 9,000 years old spirit herbs. The apprentice ceremony continued. The next one to come up was also a fourth-layer blood condensation realm cultivator. His apprenticeship gift was a total of 50 mid-grade spirit stones. Obviously, this amount of spirit stones was not a small burden to him. He must have put in a lot of effort to get it. However, the cultivators in the audience did not buy it. In their opinion, giving spirit stones was like giving gold and silver to mortals. It was too vulgar. Therefore, many people started booing. The apprentice's face turned pale and beads of sweat dripped down. On the other hand, his master, enlightened Master Xianchong, accepted the gift with a smile and said, 50 mid-grade spirit stones is a token of my sincerity. Very good. When the apprentice heard enlightened Master Xuanchong's words, he calmed down and thanked his master gratefully. Then he stood next to enlightened Master Xianchong. Lu Ping was stunned as he watched from the side. No wonder everyone attached so much importance to the apprenticeship ceremony. To put it bluntly, they couldn't lose their master's face. To put it bluntly, which cultivator could withstand such ridicule in front of so many people? Next, the apprentice cultivators came forward one by one to present their gifts. There were all kinds of gifts, such as magic artifacts, spiritual materials, materials obtained from hunting demon beasts, talismans, treasure maps, and some other strange things. It was an eye-opener for Lu Ping. Of course, there were also people who gave him elixirs. No matter what kind of apprenticeship gift the apprentice disciple gave, whether it was precious or not, or whether the audience cheered or jeered, the enlightened masters who accepted the apprenticeship ceremony all had a calm expression on their faces. They would smile and say a few words of encouragement. None of them showed any dissatisfaction with the gift. In the blink of an eye, 34 out of the 37 apprentices had finished their apprenticeship ceremony. Only 4 disciples, including Lu Ping, were left on the stage. 10 enlightened masters on the stage had also finished their apprenticeship ceremony. Only enlightened Master Lu Xianling and enlightened Master Xianin were left on the purple seats in the center. There were also 2 enlightened masters in the middle of the stage. They were enlightened Master Xianjing and enlightened Master Xuanhui, who had arrived on the Golden Rock and White Cloud respectively. Lu Ping was curious about which of the 3 enlightened masters were the apprentices of, so he looked at the other 3. At the same time, the other 3 also noticed each other. Obviously, they had the same idea as Lu Ping. The 4 of them looked at each other, making the atmosphere very strange. The middle-aged scholar who presided over the apprenticeship ceremony also seemed to be tired of speaking at this moment, so he casually thanked them. The audience of Jinling cultivators also looked at the 4 people at this moment. Obviously, they were very interested in the apprenticeship ceremony of the last 4 people. Chapter 141. Lu Ping looked at the other 3. One was a handsome and elegant young man dressed like a young scholar. The other made Lu Ping frown. Lu Ping knew this person. It was the arrogant young man who came to ask Lu Ping for a millennium spirit grass after Lu Ping returned from Feiling Island. After not seeing him for a few years, this young man seemed to have matured a lot. Thinking about this young man's background in Jinling's alchemy pavilion, other than his own master, one of the remaining 4 enlightened masters must be an alchemy grandmaster of the sect. At this time, the arrogant young man obviously also recognized Lu Ping. His expression also changed. Then, as if remembering something, he looked at enlightened Master Lu Xianling, who was sitting in the center of the hall, gritted his teeth, and his expression returned to normal. The third person's age was similar to Lu Ping, maybe even a little younger, but his face and eyes were full of hardships. Obviously, he had experienced a lot. Lu Ping also felt a murderous aura from him. His whole body was like an unsheathed sword, cold and stern, making people not dare to approach him. Including Lu Ping himself, the cultivators outside the hall suddenly found that these 4 people had a common characteristic. They were all young. In terms of age, Lu Ping was probably the oldest. Everyone came to a realization. No wonder 2 late core forging enlightened masters came out to recruit disciples. Even enlightened Master Xianjing and enlightened Master Xianhui, one was an alchemy grandmaster of the alchemy pavilion, and the other was a vice hall enlightened master of the puppet hall. It turned out that these 4 people were here to recruit geniuses. The crowd was talking among themselves, obviously looking forward to what kind of gifts the 4 people could offer. The middle-aged scholar who had just finished resting shouted loudly, disciple of enlightened Master Xianhui Ji Zixuan, offers gifts. The cultivator, who looked like a handsome young master, smiled at Lu Ping and the others, then walked up to Reverend Xianhui, bowed, and said, I heard that teacher has been collecting the puppet-making literature that was passed down from the time when Fei Ling sect was destroyed. I was fortunate enough to trade for a puppet-making jade slip from a senior brother, who had just returned from Fei Ling Island. I have come to offer it to teacher. Spiritual Master Xianhui was delighted to hear this and said, Oh, let me see it. There was a hint of eagerness in his expression. Ji Zixuan respectfully handed over a grayish-black jade slip. Taoist Master Xianhui took it and impatiently probed it with his divine sense. A moment later, Taoist Master Xianhui stroked his beard and said with a smile, Good, good. It is one of the puppet inheritance jade slips that the old man needs. With this jade slip, the old man can save 3 years of research and exploration. When the audience heard Master Taoist Xianhui's laughter, they all praised in unison, Good. They also applauded enthusiastically. Ji Zixuan bowed slightly and retreated to Taoist Master Xianhui's side. The middle-aged scholar shouted again, Taoist Master Xianjing's disciple, Tao Zifang, presents the gift of apprenticeship. Tao Zifang, the arrogant teenager from back then, looked at Lu Ping provocatively, then walked up to Taoist Master Xianjing with his head held high. After bowing to Taoist Master Xianjing, he reached out to his waist and took out a milky white jade bottle. Lu Ping observed carefully from the side. There was no storage pouch on Tao Zifang's waist, only a black jade belt. It was probably a storage belt. Tao Zifang said, Master, these are the 3 blood-condensing pills disciple has successfully refined a few days ago. The first and second batch produce 3 pills each, and the third batch produce 4 pills. This is an entire bottle of blood-condensing pills. At the same time, disciple has officially become an alchemist. This time, Taoist Master Xianjing didn't need to say anything. The surrounding cultivators exclaimed in surprise. The difficulty of refining blood-condensing pills was comparable to that of a late blood condensation cultivator. Tao Zifang was already an alchemist at such a young age. Obviously, he would be heavily nurtured by the sect. His future was limitless. Lu Ping, on the other hand, felt a little helpless. Tao Zifang was the alchemy genius, yet he managed to refine 3 pills in his first batch. Lu Ping remembered that when he refined his first batch of blood-condensing pills, he had already described it as a miracle. This was because before this, no matter what kind of pill Lu Ping refined, he would always fail on his first batch. Taoist Master Xianjing's face was also glowing. He smiled and said, I still need to continue training. The success rate needs to be increased. Although he didn't say any obvious words of praise, anyone with a discerning eye could see from Taoist Master Xianjing's expression that he was very satisfied. Tao Zifang respectfully acknowledged, but he still had a proud expression on his face. He glanced in the direction of Lu Ping, the cold youth, and Ji Zixuan. Ji Zixuan was still smiling, but Lu Ping didn't seem to notice. Only the cold youth gave a slight humph. Just at this time, the middle-aged scholar's voice rang out again. Taoist Master Black Yin's disciple, Yin Zichu, presents the apprenticeship gift. Yin Zichu was the cold youth. He walked forward and bowed to Taoist Master Black Yin. Taoist Master Black Yin's eyes finally opened. He looked at Yin Zichu and said, Is it done? Yin Zichu nodded. He took out a storage bag from his bosom and threw it on the ground. Immediately, the smell of blood filled the air. The surrounding cultivators were in an uproar. Tao Zifang frowned in disgust. Ji Zixuan only wrinkled his nose. He was also somewhat sensitive to the smell of blood, but his expression was still calm. Lu Ping, on the other hand, had an expression of indifference. There were a total of 3 demon beast corpses on the ground. Lu Ping could tell at a glance that these 3 demon beasts were killed by the flying sword in a short period of time. The way Lu Ping looked at the cold youth suddenly changed. There was a hint of admiration in his eyes. At this time, a cultivator who recognized the 3 demon beasts said, Silver Shark, Flowery Flower Snake, and Feather Eagle. These 3 demon beasts were all in the late blood condensation realm. This Silver Shark was even at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. The Feather Eagle is also known for its fast speed. Another cultivator said, This junior martial brother Inzichu's cultivation is only at the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm. A more knowledgeable cultivator added, from the looks of it, each demon beast was killed within 10 moves. When did the gap between the late blood condensation and mid-blood condensation realm become so easy to bridge? Everyone was talking at once, but every time they said a sentence, the surrounding cultivators would cheer. When the cultivators clearly explained the information of the 3 demon beasts on the ground, the cultivators were already applauding and cheering. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was able to glean more accurate information from the battle. Inzichu didn't even use more than 7 moves to kill the 3 monster beasts, instead of 10 moves as everyone thought. Master Mysterious In still had a deadpan expression on his face. He only nodded and said, "Not bad." Inzichu moved to the side and kept the demon beast corpses. He stood beside Master Mysterious In, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground. The middle-aged scholar cleaned it up casually. At this time, only Lu Ping had not presented his gift yet. The crowd looked at Lu Ping and whispered to each other. At this time, everyone had already noticed that the first 3 disciples were competing with each other when presenting their gifts. Even the enlightened masters were interested. They wanted to know what was so special about this last disciple that made Lu Xianling, one of the 3 truths and 4 spirit of the Jinling sect, personally come out to accept him as his disciple. The middle-aged scholar coughed unnaturally. Obviously, he was affected by the atmosphere. When he saw his teacher, Master Mysterious Miao, looking at him, he quickly said, "Master Lu Xuanling's disciple Lu Ping presents his gift." Lu Ping, on the other hand, was no longer nervous. He walked forward, bowed, and took out a jade bottle. This disciple was lucky enough to obtain a pill recipe a few days ago. I refined this bottle of miracle face-retaining pill. I wish Master Eternal Youth. Silence. The crowd was confused. After a while, someone whispered to each other, "What is this miracle face-retaining pill? Why haven't I heard of it?" Never heard of it. As the name suggests, it should be related to maintaining one's appearance, right? Then it should be similar to the appearance-stabilizing pill and beauty pill, right? The appearance-stabilizing pill can maintain one's appearance for 10 years, while the beauty pill can only maintain one's appearance for 5 years. These 2 miracle face-retaining pills are equivalent to the mid-blood condensation realm, while the other is equivalent to the early blood condensation realm. It's not bad compared to the miracle face-retaining pill. After all, Master Lu Xianling is a female. However, no matter if it's the appearance-stabilizing pill or the beauty pill, they will eventually lose their effectiveness if consumed too much. When that happens, one will not be able to maintain one's appearance and beauty anymore. The crowd still applauded and cheered, but it was not as enthusiastic as the previous 3 disciples. The crowd was still a little disappointed. After everyone applauded, Master Lu Xianling did not say any words of encouragement. Could it be that Master Lu was dissatisfied and felt embarrassed? Everyone looked at Lu Ping with pity in their eyes, only to find that Master Lu Xianling was happily playing with Lu Ping's jade crystal bottle in her hand. She even opened the bottle and sniffed the fragrance of the pill inside. The other 3 female enlightened masters were also looking at the jade crystal bottle in Master Lu's hand eagerly. Other than that, the other enlightened masters on the stage were also looking at Lu Ping strangely. Even Tao Zifeng was glaring at Lu Ping indignantly. Clearly, he knew something that the others did not. The crowd was stunned. Was there something wrong? He's using a jade crystal bottle. A cultivator finally made a new discovery. Could it be that he's concocting a core forging realm pill? Such a young alchemy master? It can't be, right? The crowd started discussing again, and the momentum was getting louder and louder. The middle-aged scholar was at a loss of what to do. Master Profound Miao saw that the crowd was getting out of control and coughed loudly. The crowd felt as if a clap of thunder had exploded in their ears, and they immediately shut their mouths. Master Profound Miao stood up and said slowly, "Youth-retaining pill. A pill that can preserve one's appearance for 30 years. It's made from a mixture of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs and 500-year-old spiritual materials. It's a type of blood condensation realm pill and core forging realm pill. Cultivators who can concoct this type of pill are usually called alchemy masters." The crowd listened to Master Profound Miao's brief explanation, and after a long time someone suddenly said, a fifth-layer blood condensation realm alchemy master in his 20s. This bottle of pill could preserve one's appearance for 300 years. How long was the lifespan of a core forging realm enlightened master? 500 to 800 years. Tao Zifang's facial muscles twitched. He's really an alchemy master. This guy must be targeting me on purpose. This is revenge. The crowd was still silent. There was no applause or cheering. They only looked at Lu Ping with admiration. From their gazes, Lu Ping could only read one word: monster. Chapter 142. Just as Lu Ping was suffering under the worship and jealousy of the crowd, a voice came and said coldly, "Legend has it that Xianling Sect's alchemy master, Wei Shuren, went out to travel when he was young and obtained a recipe for the Agerasia pill in the East Sea. This recipe was the only one in the North Sea. Wei Shuren regarded it as his life and never passed it on to others. Wei Shuren used this recipe to refine the Agerasia pill, and earned a lot of spirit herbs and spirit stones from female cultivators and male cultivators who flattered female cultivators. Boy, who gave you this recipe? Did you refine this Agerasia pill, or did someone else give it to you? If you refined it yourself, whose inheritance did you get?" The person who spoke at first was slow, as if he was telling a story, attracting everyone's attention. But when he asked questions later, his expression became fierce, as if he had determined that Lu Ping's identity was suspicious. At the same time, a strong momentum came towards Lu Ping, pressing down on Lu Ping's breath. Lu Ping turned around in surprise. The person who spoke was Tao Zifang's teacher, Jinling's alchemy master, Taoist master Xianjing, who was in the middle stage of core forging. The crowd, who had been addicted to watching the ceremony, had been waiting for the middle-aged scholar to announce the end of the apprenticeship ceremony. Unexpectedly, a new force suddenly appeared and caused waves. Suddenly, their spirits were lifted again. After Taoist master Xianjing finished his words, everyone looked at Lu Ping with a hint of suspicion. Lu Ping's face was red under the pressure of Taoist master Xianjing's momentum, but his heart was burning with anger. "When did I offend you, old bastard? Now you come out and give me eye medicine." Lu Ping almost gritted his teeth and said, "Junior's affairs will be handled by Junior's teacher, and Junior's affairs will only be told to Junior's teacher. What qualifications do you have to ask? I just won't say it. You're accusing me of a crime that I didn't commit." Lu Ping's words could be said to be extremely disrespectful. At first, he still considered himself to be a junior, but towards the end, he directly used sir, you, and I. He was clearly saying that Lu Ping was not worthy of being a senior expert, and that he had lived his life like a dog. As soon as Lu Ping finished speaking, the crowd of cultivators went into an uproar. The Taoist masters present all had a surprised expression on their faces. Even Taoist master Mysterious Yin opened his eyes and looked at Lu Ping. This little guy is actually able to speak under the suppression of Xianjing's intermediate core forging stage spiritual sense. Not only that, but he is also able to speak in a coherent manner. It's really interesting. Soon after, the spiritual masters realized that Lu Ping's words were also full of sarcasm. This was a blatant provocation of the authority of the core forging spiritual masters. However, spiritual master Lu did not say anything. Xianjing's sudden provocation was somewhat inexplicable. Thus they all looked on coldly. At this moment, Taoist master Xianjing was furious. He didn't expect that Lu Ping could speak fluently under the suppression of his spiritual sense. He didn't expect Lu Ping to say such contemptuous words to him. Taoist master Xianjing wanted to slap Lu Ping to make an example out of him. However, Lu Ping was spiritual master Lu's disciple, so he couldn't deal with him as he pleased. Not to mention, spiritual master Lu was also present at this moment. Spiritual master Xianjing's cold eyes made Taoist master Xianjing's hair stand on end. Only now did he remember the power of the 3 truths and 4 spirits in Jinling. Enlightened master Xianjing was in a difficult position. He didn't expect things to turn out this way. Because Lu Ping was able to refute enlightened master Xianjing's words, the situation changed dramatically in an instant. He became the most shameless person in this apprenticeship ceremony. Taoist master Xianjing put all his qi on Lu Ping. At this moment, even a late blood condensation realm cultivator would fall to the ground. However, Lu Ping still stood there with his back straight, even though Lu Ping's veins were bulging. At this moment, Spiritual Master Lu, who was behind Lu Ping, finally spoke. Senior Brother Xianjing, thank you for disciplining this disrespectful disciple on behalf of little sister. Senior Brother, don't be angry and harm your health. Taoist Master Xiansheng's eyes twitched. The corner of Reverend Xuanqing's eyes twitched as he sat at the side. He more or less understood this mistress of his. She was usually gentle and virtuous, and would not speak a single harsh word. If anyone offended her, she would only say a few words, and would never argue with them verbally. However, the method she would use to exact vengeance would cause one's scalp to go numb. Back then, even an outstanding person like his master would have to show some respect to his mistress. When Spiritual Master Lu's words came, the qi that was suppressing Lu Ping instantly disappeared. Lu Ping turned to Spiritual Master Lu and said in a low voice, I dare not lie to Master. Disciples' Ajurasia pill formula was obtained from a cultivator from the overturned sea gang that I killed. As for Disciples' pill concoction skills, I only need to refine some more pills to prove it. Lu Ping's voice was very low. The surrounding cultivators didn't know what Lu Ping said to Spiritual Master Lu, but the spiritual masters on the stage all heard it. When the spiritual masters heard that the Ajurasia pill formula was obtained from the overturned sea gang, the spiritual masters surprisingly didn't question whether it was true or not. Even Taoist Master Xianjing didn't question it. Taoist Master Xian Miao stood up and said to the crowd, the apprenticeship ceremony is over. Everyone can leave now. Although the cultivators were unwilling, they didn't dare to disobey Taoist Master Xian Miao's orders. One by one, they returned to their own cave abodes. After everyone left, Taoist Master Xianjing said to Spiritual Master Lu, even so, we can't be sure that he didn't obtain the pill formula from Wei Shiren. After all, the Ajurasia pill is a quasi-master grade pill. How could it be obtained by a blood condensation realm cultivator from the overturned sea gang? I think we still need to strictly investigate this kid, including the cultivators who recommended him to be Spiritual Master Lu's disciple. This is to prevent people with ulterior motives from sneaking in. That way everyone will be convinced, right? Taoist Master Xianjing's tone was already that of a negotiation. It was obvious that he wanted to find a way out of this embarrassing situation. Unexpectedly, as soon as Taoist Master Xianjing finished speaking, a loud bang was heard. Taoist Master Xiansheng slammed his chair and stood up angrily. He roared at Taoist Master Xianjing. Someone with ulterior motives? Haha. The person with ulterior motives who recommended this kid to be my mistress's disciple is our master. Martial Uncle Xianjing, you want to investigate our master? Then why don't you investigate us first? Taoist Master Xianjing was so angry that he was trembling. His heart was filled with regret. He didn't expect that his words, which were originally meant to find a way out of this embarrassing situation, would once again involve a heavyweight figure like Xinling. Xinling's disciple immediately flew into a rage. Taoist Master Xiansheng was dressed like a commoner. His words also seemed to be pestering Taoist Master Xianjing. I respect you as martial uncle only because of our seniority. Don't think that I don't know your goal. You wanted to ask for a type of medicinal pill that my master gave to my master's wife, saying that it could be used to study and improve your alchemy skills. My master's wife gave you one, but you wanted two. After being rejected by my master's wife, your jealousy turned into hatred. Today you want to make trouble for my master's wife through this junior brother, am I right? The Taoist masters present were abnormally astute. They immediately understood that this type of pill was not ordinary. For some reason, Lu Ping thought of the spirit-forging pill. Taoist Master Xianjing said angrily, this is utter nonsense. Nonsense. Taoist Master Xiansheng chuckled coldly and didn't argue with him. He continued, your pill concoction skills can only be ranked third in our sect. That kind of pill is not something you can refine. If you really want to study it, one is enough. Isn't it a waste for you to ask for two? Taoist Master Xianjing sneered. My pill concoction skills are unfathomable. How can you understand them? Taoist Master Xiansheng nodded. I don't understand, but I heard that Martial Uncle's cultivation has been stagnant at the 6th layer of core forging. You have an earth-ranked heaven and earth spirit object, but because you ate too many pills, your cultivation foundation isn't stable and you can't completely fuse with it. If you had another pill like that, advancing to the late stage of core forging would be a cinch. Taoist Master Xianjing was about to open his mouth to refute when Taoist Master Lu Xianling suddenly said, Xiansheng, you are presumptuous. Senior brother Xianjing is your martial uncle. Even if he did that, how can you stand up for him? Taoist Master Lu Xianling reprimanded Taoist Master Xiansheng on the surface, but it was equivalent to confirming that Taoist Master Xianjing's request for the pill was rejected. Taoist Master Xianjing was so angry that his whole body trembled. Taoist Master Xiansheng immediately bowed and said, Master's wife is right. Disciple was rude. After saying that, he sat down on his seat as if nothing had happened. The master and disciple echoed each other's words and cooperated well. The perfected masters all had strange expressions on their faces. Taoist Master Lu thought for a moment and said, After this Lu Ping's trip to Feiling Island, I intended to accept him as my disciple. Your master's action is unnecessary. Obviously, Taoist Master Lu wanted to say that he didn't accept Lu Ping as his disciple because of Taoist Master Xiansheng. Taoist Master Xiansheng was like an obedient insect. After hearing this, he said, Yes, disciple understands. At this moment, Taoist Master Black Yin suddenly stood up and glanced at Taoist Master Xianjing. He said, Boring. After saying that, he only used his gaze to signal to Taoist Master Lu Xianling. He didn't greet anyone else and left with his newly accepted disciple, Yin Zichu, as if there was no one else around. Before they walked 30 feet away, the two of them suddenly disappeared. It was as if the two of them didn't exist at all. Lu Ping watched in amazement. Taoist Master Lu also stood up and said, There are many trivial matters in Chonghua Manor. I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Lu Ping felt something lifting him up. It was the red silk that Taoist Master Lu used to come here. When Lu Ping looked down, he was already in the air. Taoist Master Lu Xianling was standing not far in front of him. Lu Ping only felt that the scenery on both sides of him was connected into a long green brocade. Before Lu Ping could realize what was drawn on the green brocade, he had already landed beside a small lake that was overflowing with the fragrance of flowers and the shade of green willows. As an alchemist, Lu Ping naturally recognized the flowers planted beside the small lake. The weeping willows were all spiritual herbs and materials. Only a late-stage core forging enlightened master like Taoist Master Lu Xianling would use spiritual herbs and materials to beautify the living environment. In the center of the small lake was a 90 feet high stone mountain. The entire stone mountain had been carved into a palace for people to live in using a great amount of magic power. Above the main entrance of the palace, there was a wooden plaque made from a 1,000-years-old weeping willow tree. On the plaque were 3 elegant characters, Chonghua Palace. Lu Ping followed Taoist Master Lu to the stone palace at the center of the lake. Lu Ping scanned the lake with his divine sense and discovered that there were many fishes and other creatures in the blood-refining realm. Lu Ping even vaguely discovered that there were blood condensation realm demonic beasts among them. Lu Ping followed Taoist Master Lu to the carved stone palace. Although the periphery of Chonghua Manor was decorated with flowers, the stone palace in the manor was simple. Everything was carved from stone. Lu Ping's heart was filled with questions, but it was not appropriate for him to ask them. At this moment, a young girl in palace attire was hurrying out of the palace. Lu Ping recognized this girl as the one he met a few days ago in the side hall. The young girl was obviously anxious. When she got closer, she raised her head and saw Taoist Master Lu Xianling returning. Then she saw Lu Ping following behind him. The anxiety on her face immediately eased. She then thought of something and turned to walk towards the back of the palace. Girl, where are you going? Taoist Master Lu called out to the young girl. Chapter 143. The young girl turned her head and guiltily glanced at Lu Ping. Then she bounced over to Spiritual Master Lu and hugged his arm. She said in a sweet voice, Mom, you're back. I was just about to look for you at the Heaven's Spirit Hall, but I realized that I forgot to bring my flying magic tool. I was just about to go back and get it. Lu Ping curled his lips at the side. This level of lying was too bad. Spiritual Master Lu looked at the young girl with a smile that was not a smile. The young girl knew that it was difficult to lie. She stuck out her tongue, lowered her head and fiddled with her belt. She said, Aya, a few days ago, I listened to Mom's words and went to inform this junior brother about accepting a disciple. Who would have thought that I would only chat with this junior brother and forget to tell him Mom's name? I only remembered this matter today, and was just about to rush to the Heaven Spirit Hall to remind this junior brother. Unexpectedly, Mom had already brought him back. Lu Ping helplessly shook his head as he recalled the scene at the time. It was fortunate that he had guessed correctly. If he had guessed incorrectly, he wouldn't even know how to end the situation. Now that he thought about it, he felt a lingering fear. Lu Ping could see that the young girl still had the temperament of a child. Moreover, she was his teacher's daughter, so he naturally wouldn't pursue this matter. Spiritual Master Lu gave Lu Ping a look of praise and turned his head to the young girl and said, "Crazy girl, how is it chatting? I'm afraid you fought with your senior brother, right? I knew that you weren't reliable, yet you still took on this errand. Fortunately, your senior brother was alert. If something had gone wrong, wouldn't I have lost face as a mother?" No one knew a daughter better than a mother. Lu Ping sighed. When the young girl heard Spiritual Master Lu's words, her face was immediately filled with displeasure. She said, "You clearly entered the sect later than me, and your cultivation is also lower than mine. Why is he my senior brother? It's fine if it was senior sister Lung before, but this time I won't be junior sister no matter what." Enlightened Master Lu glanced at her, and the young girl immediately became obedient. Although she was unwilling, her tone of voice changed from one of righteousness to one of complaint, and then from complaint to a low murmur. When it came to the words "little junior martial sister," even if Lu Ping tried his best to hear them, he couldn't hear them clearly. Lu Ping finally realized that this kind, dignified, and elegant teacher was actually an extremely powerful figure. His aura was so strong that the spoiled young girl was like a mouse that had seen a cat. Lu Ping didn't know where the girl's innocence came from. But then, he remembered the young girl's father who recommended him to Enlightened Master Lu, Enlightened Master Xianshang's master. Perhaps the reason was because of him. Spiritual Master Lu saw that his daughter was obedient and didn't say anything, so he ordered, "Spiritual Master Lu, go and Spiritual Master Ninth Sister." Master Lu was. The young girl was like a cat that had been wronged. She lowered her head and said, "Oh." She walked out of Chonghua Manor with small steps. Then, like a bird that had flown out of its cage, she cheered and flew towards the sky, fluttering like a fairy. Spiritual Master Lu asked Lu Ping about the situation of his cultivation. Lu Ping answered them one by one, and took the opportunity to ask for advice on the difficulties in his cultivation. Spiritual Master Lu casually answered them, and with a few words Lu Ping felt like he was suddenly enlightened. The benefits of having a teacher were immediately apparent. Regarding the matter of taking in disciples, Lu Ping didn't ask, and Spiritual Master Lu didn't explain. The two of them seemed to have a tacit understanding and only talked about some cultivation matters. After a while, he heard a delicate cry outside the manor, "I'm back. The other sisters will be here soon." If it wasn't a young girl, who else could it be? He really didn't see her, but he heard her voice first. Lu Ping turned his head and saw that other than the young girl, there was another person who followed in. It was Leng Qian. When Lu Ping and Leng Qian saw each other, they were both stunned. Lu Ping immediately felt relieved. With Leng Qian's aptitude, it was only right for her to be a disciple of Spiritual Master Lu. On the contrary, a trace of curiosity flashed through Leng Qian's cold eyes. Leng Qian went forward to greet Spiritual Master Lu, and stood in front of Lu Ping. The young girl stood behind Lu Ping in a well-behaved manner. She pouted her cherry lips and looked at Lu Ping as if she was angry. After a while, four female cultivators in palace robes entered Chonghua Manor. After greeting Spiritual Master Lu, they stood below him in order. When the female cultivators saw Lu Ping, they were also quite surprised, but they still greeted him with a smile. Lu Ping didn't dare to be negligent and called each of them senior sister. When Spiritual Master Lu saw that everyone had arrived, he pointed at Lu Ping and said, "This is my new direct disciple today, Lu Ping." After saying that, he gestured to Lu Ping and said, "Come up and greet the senior and junior sisters." Lu Ping saw that Spiritual Master Lu's aura was astonishing. After all the disciples came in, they all had a dignified and courteous appearance. He didn't dare to be negligent and once again stepped forward to greet them one by one. Spiritual Master Lu pointed at a young woman who looked to be around 30 years old and said, "This is your second senior sister, Li Xuanru." Lu Ping didn't have time to think about why it wasn't the eldest senior sister, but it was obvious that the senior sister in front of him was a core forging master. He hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. "Little brother Lu Ping greets senior sister." Li Xuanru smiled and said, "Ninth junior brother has a good cultivation. No wonder you can enter master's eyes. From now on, you must work hard to cultivate and not let master's nurturing of you be in vain." Lu Ping hurriedly nodded, but he saw spiritual master Li Xuanru take out a piece of cold jade and hand it to Lu Ping. She said, "This is 1,000-year-old cold jade that I obtained when I went out to travel in the past. Today, I will give it to you as a greeting gift to congratulate junior brother for entering master's tutelage. I hope junior brother doesn't dislike it." Lu Ping saw that the quality of this 1,000-year-old cold jade was pure, and there seemed to be a trace of mist on its surface. This was clearly a top-grade spiritual material, used to refine a top-grade water attribute magic tool. Lu Ping was at a loss and looked at Spiritual Master Lu, who was sitting at the head of the table. Spiritual Master Lu smiled and said, "Since it's a gift from your second senior sister, just accept it. You and your brother don't need to be so polite." Lu Ping hurriedly expressed his thanks. Then the tall third senior sister, Zhao Xuanji, gave him a talisman that sealed a heavenly water curtain spell. It could be used to save his life at a critical moment. Fourth senior sister Wang Xianjing didn't look very old. She had a plump figure and looked like a good wife and mother. She gave a pair of green jade hairpins to Lu Ping as a greeting gift. She smiled and said, "I don't have anything good here. Junior brother, if you have a girl you like in the future, you can give this pair of green jade hairpins to her as a greeting gift." Lu Ping didn't expect that his fourth senior sister, who looked the most virtuous on the surface, would make such a joke. He immediately blushed and the other women giggled. Even Spiritual Master Lu laughed and scolded, "You old fourth don't have any proper manners." Lu Ping was about to greet the next senior sister when Wang Xianjing took out a jade slip and said, "Your sixth senior sister, Dong Ziyu, is in seclusion to break through to the core forging stage. She doesn't have time to come out and see you. She heard that you are proficient in swordsmanship, so she asked me to give you a jade slip she obtained from a senior cultivator's cave. This jade slip recorded a set of water attribute sword technique. Legend has it that it was passed down from Fei Ling sect. I hope it will be of help to you." When Lu Ping heard that it was a relic of Fei Ling sect, he immediately became interested. However, the occasion wasn't right. He took the jade slip, thanked his sixth senior sister, and moved on to the next senior sister. Seventh senior sister was an 8th layer blood condensation cultivator. She was about the same age as Lu Ping. When she saw Lu Ping greet her, she smiled and said, "Senior sister, I don't have as much wealth as you all, but I do have a little toy with me. I'll give it to ninth junior brother." Lu Ping took the jade slip and looked at it. It was a palm-sized puppet monkey. Seventh senior sister introduced it to him. This puppet monkey is around the late blood refining realm according to the spirit stones. It's usually very clever. Junior brother, you can put it in the cave to serve tea and tidy up the place. It'll save you a lot of time. So this is a puppet. Lu Ping thought to himself. During the apprenticeship ceremony, he saw Ji Zixuan become the disciple of enlightened master Xian Huai, who was an expert in puppetry. After thanking seventh senior sister, Lu Ping put the puppet monkey into his storage ring and looked at his eighth senior sister, Long Qian. The relationship between the two of them was quite complicated. Lu Ping became famous in the Zhenling side hall when he defeated Long Qian, who was a 9th layer blood refining realm cultivator, and broke through to the 8th layer blood refining realm during the battle. After that, Lu Ping, Yao Yong, Du Feng, Shilingling, Zhongjian, Hu Lili, and the others formed a small circle. Because Lung Qian was close to Shilingling, Hu Lili, Ma Yu, and the others, she was also in the circle. However, Lu Ping rarely interacted with her, and the two of them felt awkward whenever they met. Yao Yong and the others knew about the relationship between the two of them, so they didn't expose it. Lu Ping walked up to Lung Qian and greeted, "Hello, 8th senior sister." Lung Qian had always been cold. When she saw that Lu Ping had become her junior brother, she felt a little uncomfortable and didn't know how to interact with him. Seeing that he was greeting her, She could only play along and said, "Hello, junior brother Lu." After that, she gave a gift to Lu Ping, a box of 500 years old spirit herbs. Leng Qian had some understanding of Lu Ping. She knew that he was learning alchemy, so she prepared these spirit herbs. When Lu Ping saw that most of the spirit herbs were used to concoct mid and late blood condensation pills, he knew that Leng Qian had put in a lot of effort. He thanked sincerely, "Thank you, senior sister Leng." Enlightened Master Lu and the others were smart people. When they saw the awkwardness between the two, they knew that they knew each other for a long time. Something must have happened between them, but they didn't want to expose it. Only the young girl at the end of the line giggled and said, "So you know 8th senior sister." The young girl jumped forward. Without waiting for Lu Ping to answer, she stretched her hand in front of him and said, "It's finally my turn. My name is Zhang Zixian. I originally wanted to be the 9th senior sister, but mother let you be in front of me." As she spoke, she looked at spiritual master Lu with hidden bitterness and said, "But this way, I can ask for a greeting gift from you again, 9th senior brother." After saying that, she tilted her head and thought for a while. "If I'm not satisfied, I won't call you senior brother." After saying that, she turned around and glanced at enlightened Master Lu. When she saw enlightened Master Lu looking at her with a smile on his face, she became more and more confident. The other senior sisters were also waiting to see how Lu Ping, their 9th junior brother, was going to get past their junior sister. Lu Ping thought to himself, "Luckily I'm prepared." Hence, he took out a jade bottle from his interspatial ring. Before he could say anything, his junior martial sister, Zhang Zixuan, pointed at the interspatial ring on Lu Ping's left ring finger and exclaimed in surprise, "Aya, you actually have an interspatial mystic instrument? That's a high-grade spatial mystic instrument. It's very rare." Chapter 144. Although Lu Ping usually wore his storage ring on his hand, in order to not attract attention, he used a spell to hide it. This time he was in his teacher's cave residence, so he naturally didn't have to worry too much about it. Besides, it was extremely impolite to do so he didn't use a spell to hide it. High-grade spatial magic tools, especially small decorative magic tools like the storage ring, were the most precious. Generally, even core forging Taoist masters rarely had one. In Chonghua Mansion, only Taoist Master Lu and 2nd senior sister Li Xuanru had two. The other two core forging stage senior sisters only used storage belts and small universe sleeves. The other senior sisters still used exquisite storage pouches. When Lu Ping saw that all the senior sisters were looking at the storage ring on his hand, he was quite surprised. Lu Ping touched his nose in embarrassment and said, "I got it by luck on Feiling Island. It's not worth mentioning." Zhang Zixuan didn't give up. High-grade spatial magic tool, and a storage ring. "It's not worth mentioning?" After she finished speaking, her exquisite face had an expression that said, "Are you kidding me?" Lu Ping didn't know how to answer, so he could only look at his teacher, Taoist Master Lu, with a pleading gaze. Taoist Master Lu saw that Lu Ping was embarrassed, but he still had a smile on his face. No matter how he looked at it, Lu Ping could see a trace of gloating hidden in his expression. Taoist Master Lu finally spoke, "Girl, don't mess around. Don't you want to see your 9th senior brother's gift?" Zhang Zixuan finally remembered her previous request and looked at the jade bottle in Lu Ping's hand. When Lu Ping saw that his junior sister finally remembered her greeting gift, he handed the jade bottle to Zhang Zixuan, who was already impatient, and said, "This is the fragrant pill I refined. There are 10 pills with different fragrances inside. Junior sister, you can choose one of the fragrant pills according to your preferences. After taking it, your whole body will emit this fragrance for 3 years." Zhang Zixuan was still a child, so when she saw these strange pills, her interest was naturally piqued. She quickly pestered Lu Ping to ask him what the 10 pills smelled like, and Lu Ping answered them one by one. Seeing that his junior martial sister was finally satisfied, Lu Ping took out another 5 bottles of myriad fragrance pellets and said, "I've concocted quite a lot this time, and I'm planning to give them to the senior martial sisters. However, I don't know what kind of fragrance you all like, so I can only choose one of each. If senior martial sisters have any requests in the future, just come to me." The 5 senior sisters were quite happy to receive Lu Ping's gifts. Everyone loved beauty, and cultivators were no exception. Although it was easy for the girls to carry the fragrance on their bodies as cultivators, it was a waste of time to use the incense too frequently. Moreover, there were many inconveniences. Using magic power to transform the incense, although the amount of magic power wasted was negligible, it was a long-term process to maintain the fragrance on their bodies. The magic power that came out of their bodies would accumulate over a long period of time, and for the cultivators who were gathering magic power for cultivation, it was not a small burden. The fragrant pill, on the other hand, was a process that came from the inside out. It was not like incense where the fragrance was attached to clothes. Although it was not worth mentioning, it was really pleasing to the women. Fourth senior sister Wang Xianjing said curiously, "I didn't expect ninth junior brother to know how to refine pills." "Junior brother, have you already become a pill refiner?" Lu Ping nodded. "It's not difficult to refine the blood-condensing pill now." Zhao Xuanji, the third senior sister, suddenly thought of something and said, "When I came here, I heard from the disciples that there was a disciple who used the retaining youth pill as a gift in this apprenticeship ceremony. Could it be that you refined it?" Although Zhao Xuanji was asking about Lu Ping, her eyes were looking at Lu Xianling. Lu Zhenren smiled. "Third brother, don't play tricks on me. This time, I received a bottle of ninth brother's Agerasia pill. It can keep my appearance unchanged for 300 years. It was made by ninth brother." Jiang Zixuan was originally thinking about which flower to choose for the fragrant pill. When she heard that Lu Zhenren had the Agerasia pill, her eyes lit up and she immediately forgot about the fragrant pill in her hand. She skipped to Lu Zhenren and said, "Mother, the Agerasia pill, let me see it?" Just when Lu Zhenren admitted that Lu Ping was the one who refined the Agerasia pill, Lu Ping suddenly felt that he was being stared at by several drooling eyes. Even Long Qian, who was next to him, had an expression of disbelief and eagerness. Lu Ping was sweating in his heart. He knew that if he didn't take a stand, he would definitely not be able to get away with it today. The female cultivators in the Chonghua mansion were definitely not good people. As long as Lu Zhenren, as his master, was strong in front of the Zhenrens in Jinling, he knew what these senior sisters would do. Lu Zhenren, who was sitting in his seat, seemed to have really forgotten that there was a male disciple like Lu Ping. He only cared about letting his daughter admire the Agerasia pill in her hand. Lu Ping quickly recorded the dozens of spirit herbs needed to refine the Agerasia pill in the jade slip and said, "Senior sisters, these are the names of the nearly 30 spirit herbs needed to refine the Agerasia pill. Senior sisters can slowly collect them. If they are all collected, junior brother will open the furnace and refine it for senior sisters. It's just that junior brother's alchemy skills are not good enough. The success rate of the Agerasia pill is barely 30%. I'm afraid that a lot will be wasted." At this time the second senior sister spoke. "Junior brother Jiao is really generous. Since little Jiao is so loyal, we as senior sisters are too polite. From now on we are a family, and we should love and help each other." The senior sisters giggled non-stop. Lu Ping didn't expect that the second senior sister, Li Xuanru, who gave him the most impression of being the most prudent, would actually say such words. He was suddenly speechless. At this time, Lu Zhenren finally satisfied his daughter's curiosity. Without waiting for Jiang Zixuan to pester Lu Ping to refine the Agerasia pill, he said, "Well, you have seen old Zhou's ability. Alchemy can be done. Seeing that we are from the same sect, old Zhou is naturally easy to talk to. However, alchemy is a waste of time. Everyone, don't let this quasi-master delay his cultivation because of alchemy." Seeing that Lu Zhenren was serious, the girls also respectfully said, "Yes." Enlightened Master Lu then turned to Lu Ping and said, "Old Zhou, you gave me the face halting pellet, which helped me gain face in the grand ceremony. Your senior martial sisters also gave you a greeting gift, so naturally, I also prepared a small gift for you." Lu Zhenren opened his hand. On it was a clear bead that contained a warm cloud qi. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. It was the spirit gathering pearl that Lu Ping had once obtained. Lu Zhenren looked at Lu Ping and said with a smile, "It seems that you recognize this item. This spirit gathering pearl is placed in the earth vein, and after 2 or 3 years, it can produce a miniature spirit vein. I know that your cave residence is not built in Tianling Mountain, so I gave you this bead with the intention of telling you to cultivate diligently." After Lu Ping thanked Lu Zhenren continued, Since there is a direct disciple under my tutelage, I will open a forum and give a lecture in 7 days. Second girl, you will be in charge of this matter. At that time, the unnamed disciples and other disciples of the sect can all listen. Second senior sister Li Xuanru nodded respectfully. Lu Zhenren then ordered everyone to leave. At the same time, he told Li Xuanru to arrange for Lu Ping to stay in Chonghua Manor for the time being. Lu Ping knew that Lu Zhenren's lecture this time was actually targeted at him. After Li Xuanru made the necessary arrangements, Lu Ping suddenly remembered the sea wave listening technique, one of the 2 major techniques that made up the North Sea wave listening technique. When Lu Ping first entered the blood condensation realm, he only received the technique for the entire blood condensation realm. Now that he had become Lu Zhenren's direct disciple, he had surpassed the elite disciples of the sect and became a direct disciple. Naturally, he was qualified to receive the full set of the sea wave listening technique. Lu Ping told Li Xuanru about this matter. Li Xuanru giggled and said, "Junior brother, you still don't know, right? Master's branch mostly cultivates water attribute techniques. Therefore, the sect has many water attribute techniques here. There is no need to go to the Heaven Spirit Hall to find techniques." Having said that, she directly handed a jade slip to Lu Ping and said, "The sea wave listening technique was one of the true techniques of Fei Ling sect in the past. However, after Fei Ling sect was destroyed, the sect's techniques were not complete. Although I don't cultivate this technique, I often study it and compare it with my own techniques. It's not just me. Many cultivators in the sect who cultivate water attribute techniques, in addition to their own techniques, also have to compare their techniques with other techniques. This way, they can learn from each other's strengths and make up for their weaknesses." Lu Ping knew that Li Xuanru was using this opportunity to give him pointers. After receiving the jade slip, he quickly thanked her. After settling down in Chonghua Manor, Lu Ping saw that Li Xuanru still hadn't left. He asked second senior sister in the hall today, other than sixth senior sister, "Why didn't I hear Master mention eldest senior sister and fifth senior sister?" Li Xuanru's expression changed. She sighed and said, "Both of them have fallen." Hearing this, Lu Ping knew that he had asked the wrong question. Just when he didn't know what to say, Li Xuanru continued, "This matter has to be told to you sooner or later. Eldest senior sister Wu Zimin was the first disciple that Master had accepted when she had just entered the core forging realm. Naturally, Master had high hopes for eldest senior sister. Unfortunately, eldest senior sister's talent was limited. The core forging realm was an extremely difficult barrier to break through. Although under Master's supervision, eldest senior sister cultivated very diligently, in the end, she didn't break through to the core forging realm before her lifespan ran out. She died more than 100 years ago. Only your third senior sister, fourth senior sister, and I have seen her." Lu Ping was shocked. Master's cultivation is extremely high. Even she can't help eldest senior sister advance to the core forging realm? Li Xuanru looked at Lu Ping and said solemnly, "Master naturally has a way to help her break through to the core forging realm. However, if she relied on external forces, even if she formed a gold core, she would only be the weakest existence among the core forging enlightened masters. Moreover, it would be difficult for her to take a step forward in her life." Eldest senior sister's talent was mediocre, but she was extremely arrogant. She wholeheartedly wanted to rely on her own efforts to break through to the core forging realm. Therefore, she would rather use up her lifespan than use this method. After hearing this, Lu Ping's mind was in a mess. He didn't know what to think. Master Li Xuanru looked at him and continued, "Fifth junior sister's death is a regrettable matter for our Chonghua sect. It happened 30 years ago. In order to find an opportunity to break through to the core forging realm, fifth junior sister went out to travel with a few friends. It is said that they found an ancient ruin in the buffer sea near Autumn Cloud Island. However, they later disappeared in that area. The Jade Tablet of Peace in Chonghua sect was broken. After Master found out that fifth junior sister had died, he went to investigate, but in the end, he found nothing." Hearing Li Xuanru mention Autumn Cloud Island, Lu Ping was startled. He couldn't help but say, "Autumn Cloud Island? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.